Welcome
You need
to
to
the
move
election
over.
night. I do?
You need to move over. I feel like we're so all right. All right, whatever.
Scooted?
We're scooted. So unfortunately, I did not
Welcome.
get my lady rights back.
Welcome to election night, generational change, guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter.
If you're new here, welcome to Generational Change. This is not our usual night, but we are doing an election night live stream, as is everybody else. Just so I am very keenly aware that everybody's live tonight. So, but welcome. We're gonna obviously be following the election, talking crap about people. What else are we gonna do?
I think the best place to start is the state of Florida, which should come as no surprise to anybody, although I will say it is quite refreshing to see that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has only won re-election by 8 points. That means that there's probably going to be more money and more infrastructure poured into this district, and eventually she's going to go bye-bye one way or the other.
Well, it's nice. They're creeping up.
Hey.
They're definitely creeping up, which is nice. But to start off with really, to me, is the most, upsetting thing that we know as of yet, is that in Florida, neither recreational marijuana nor women's right to abortion passed, neither of them. And I would like to tell people why those aren't passing, because it isn't just that we don't have a majority of people that support those, because we do. The problem is in Florida, even though we have a majority of people that support those things, we're also not the sharpest tools in the shed.
Definitely not.
So there was an amendment, and for people who don't realize on ballots, when it comes to amendments, people generally tend to vote yes. Most people vote yes on amendments. What happened in Florida was about 20 years ago, there was a ballot initiative that made it so that we actually need 60% in order for ballot initiatives or amendments to pass. We actually need 60% here. So while both Amendment 3 for legalized cannabis and oh, wow, Henry, welcome. Oh, and I like Tina.
I do like Tina.
I do like Tina.
Still a little early in Vegas, though.
Yeah.
Let's be.
It's too early for Tina. We'll watch Tina later.
Yeah.
So we have to have a 60% threshold. And so neither abortion rights nor cannabis are passing here. And it's really upsetting. It is upsetting. But you know what? The one good thing, which is what I was just saying to him, is hopefully this will discourage people from coming here and moving here, because we have way too many people.
Yeah, the problem and here's some of the early takeaways that I think we can definitely project very easily here on election night. The GOP is no question going to take the Senate. I think that they've already flipped West Virginia's Senate seat. Sherrod Brown, I have not.
It's not looking good.
I haven't checked out where he stands in
Ohio. It wasn't good.
Right now.
I did. I looked, and it wasn't good.
And so right now, obviously, as you can see here in Florida is now it is a solid red state. Trump is. What did we say the number was going to be? We said it would be 10 points. It's 12 points. It's 12 points in a general election, and this is a state that still considers Debbie Wasserman Schultz to be one of the leaders of the party. It couldn't happen to a better group of people that have decided that they're going to sink this party right to the bottom of the Atlantic and the Gulf, because they just can't get out of their own way. And so right now, with approximately what percentage is reporting? With almost half reporting, Bernie Moreno leads Sherrod Brown by less than a point. The question becomes, what percentage of the vote share has come in from Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati? And I wouldn't even consider Cincinnati a place where you're really worrying about the vote coming in. It's Columbus and Cleveland. That's really where it's going to be determined whether or not Sherrod Brown is going to be able to keep his Senate seat. And we have said time and again, he is as good as anybody in the Democratic Party right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. But losing somebody like that it's just,
And that's where it really becomes a very big problem when it comes to this idea of where does the allocation of the funds, because remember, the Democrats once again outraised the Republicans 2-1 in this presidential election. So where is a lot of that money going? Well, it does appear, and Jen, if you want to check real quick, that Colin Allred, who was running against Ted Cruz in Texas, they have really gone all in to try to flip that seat. I don't blame them for trying. Ted Cruz is as loathsome and disgusting as anybody in all.
No, Ted Cruz is gross. They're not going to clip that seat. Here it is.
So right now, with approximately it's a close race. Don't get
You
me
have
wrong.
57% reporting, so more than half.
So 57% reporting. Ted Cruz is carrying a 5-point lead of approximately just under 400,000 votes. Again,
but I want to see what this
it really
means.
comes down to where are the vote shares coming from.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like the Blues, they still haven't gotten it yet. Looks like the Metroplex hasn't been completely in. Yeah, I mean, but still,
no,
I think
in Texas, it's 2 major metroplexes. It's Houston and Austin. That's basically where the votes for the Democrats. Dallas is not as blue as people make it out to be. I mean, it's got its blue pockets. I'm saying as an overall city.
Yeah, I mean, San Antonio is blue, but it's not huge.
No,
it's not a big city.
Now Austin is blue. Austin is definitely a blue city. And so depending on, I mean, maybe the race is close, but who knows? Again, if this is their one,
I don't think Ted Cruz is losing. I just don't.
I hope he loses
because, well, I always hope Ted Cruz loses, but he doesn't is the thing. It's like if they haven't gotten rid of him by now, they're not going to. That's just how it works. It's just how it works. It's like if they were going to get rid of him, they would have gotten rid of him.
Yep. So the Democrats have just picked up a Senate seat. They picked up Ruben Gallego defeats Kari Lake in Arizona. Not surprising. Ruben Gallego is a sitting congressman. This is a state, obviously, that has been trending in that direction.
I don't like her, so that's good.
No, Kari Lake is
she's not good.
She's just an entertainer. She's not a legislator. But Ruben Gallego is a legislator, and he is Latino in Arizona. That does matter. And so we'll see what happens pertaining to the presidential race. I don't know if you have, because I don't want to necessarily be,
No, I'm trying to just refresh here. This is.
Will the Greens get to 5%?
I got to update again.
I'm going to say that that's highly unlikely, Teresa. Unfortunately,
I wish they would.
It takes a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure. We, as people who are politicos, if you will.
Ohio went to Trump.
Yeah, so Ohio just got called for Trump. But again, these are not surprises.
No. And plus, you have to also understand, J.D. Vance was just elected there fairly recently.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that Ohio would go in that direction. Right now, it's sitting at Trump 137 to Harris 99. New York is in that at this point.
Okay, so Texas was just called for Trump pretty early, I have to say. So was
Texas in play?
Well, Texas wasn't. No, again, here's the thing that here's the thing that a lot of people tend to forget when it comes to calling these races. That is very important here. And this is what's different about this particular election, 2024 versus 2020, is that it took longer to call these states. These states are actually getting called relatively quickly, considering how they generally tend to, break on election night. So right now, Trump is sitting at 177. Harris is sitting at 99. Again, it's still early. There are still a number of outstanding states that are going to go in Harris's direction, at least probably somewhere in the neighborhood of.
Which ones do you think are going to her?
Well, she's going to get, as the old saying goes, she's going to get the left coast.
No, I'm not talking about those. The only states that matter are the swing states.
Well, as far as the swing states are concerned, there's nothing to report as of yet in terms of what's going to happen there.
I don't see which one she's going to get.
So in terms of the West Coast, she's going to get Washington, Oregon, California, and Colorado. New Mexico is currently trending red, but I'm not buying that. And so what you'll ultimately have, I think Colorado's 10, if I'm not mistaken. New Mexico's 5 or 6.
I don't think she's getting Arizona.
California
I don't think
Arizona's probably the one swing state that I actually felt fairly confident for Trump going into, but we'll see. Ruben Gallego winning pretty easily over Kari Lake it probably should not come as any surprise. But if you look at the polling in Arizona, it was actually very interesting. Ruben Gallego was crushing Kari Lake, like crushing her, yet Trump was easily beating Harris by, I think, like a 3 or 4, even 5-point margin in Arizona. Listen, give voters credit. They actually are capable of not just voting a straight ticket.
They are, but I also think that it depends on where. And in Arizona in particular, their number one issue, hands down, is immigration.
Yes.
And they are going to vote. Like, to me, Arizona, I don't know why we're even calling it a swing state.
Yeah. So apparently on Fox News, the numbers.
Fox News.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, apparently there is another state that has been called, or 2 states have been called for Harris. So apparently she's sitting at 113
Well,
at this point.
What does she have?
I don't know. Again, this is AP. AP is probably the most reliable source in terms of accurate counts as of right now. Right now it's way too early in Michigan. Harris is up by 6 with 10% reporting. Wisconsin, 1% reporting. It doesn't matter. Minnesota, 1% reporting. Pennsylvania, 20% reporting. Harris has a 20-point lead. Again, this has as much to do, most likely, because she had like a 30-point lead recently with the vote splits that were coming in out of Philadelphia, which is, of course, where you're going to get a lot of them. Of course, you got Harrisburg and University Park. Pennsylvania is a state that may not even be called tonight. You just don't know. I'm always very skeptical of why these things take as long as they do, but you never know. I mean, Trump is up by
because they're doing stuff like calling in bomb threats and setting ballot boxes on fire.
Trump is up by a point in Virginia. He is not projected to win that state. He is up by just over 20,000 votes there right now. North Carolina, Trump is up by 5 with 42% reporting. Again, in North Carolina, it basically comes down to the triangle. It comes down to Charlotte, Raleigh, and Durham.
And I would say that they're exceptionally pissed off right now at how the government's been responding to their crises.
Yeah, that's definitely something.
North Carolina is not, they're in a foul mood. You know what I mean? It's like this to them is sort of like the people when we were voting during COVID. It's like they're in a crisis. So they're not happy with them. I'm just saying they're not in a normal way.
Trump is up by a comfortable right now 6-point margin in Georgia with just under 70% reporting. He has a 250,000 vote lead. Again, in Georgia, it all depends on Atlanta Metro and what's coming in out of Cobb and Fulton County. Again, like I said, there are certainly more votes to count in those regions, and there's no telling where the vote splits might come from.
But what is it? She needs to get which swing state? Like my understanding is she needs to win all the swing states.
That is not true. No, that's not true at all. So basically, the magic number for 270, as far as I can tell, in terms of what it's going to take for Trump to get to his number, is Trump pulls Georgia. He flips Georgia, he holds North Carolina, and he flips Pennsylvania, and then it doesn't matter what Harris does.
But I don't think, see, now of all of those, the one that I think that she has the best chance of getting is Pennsylvania.
Probably. I would agree with that.
So if she has, so he has to, what's his path without Pennsylvania?
Arizona and Nevada.
Right. I think he'll get those. I think the only two, and again, I feel bad for the people in Michigan, because it's like they are just...
The interesting trend right now is that Trump is actually ahead by almost 3.5 million votes in the popular vote. That's actually very surprising.
No, not to me.
It usually, the gap tends to be... Trump, at this point of the night, Trump has been up in the last 2 election cycles, but not by this margin. This is a lot bigger, especially... 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours after the lion's share of the polls have actually closed. Of course, you still have polls that are just closing right now on the West Coast. The mountain.
I was going to say, we don't care about the West Coast. We know who they vote for.
We know who the West Coast is voting for. We know how Hawaii's going. We know how Alaska's going. We know how Utah's going. We know how Idaho, Montana.
Right. All of those we know. The only ones you're saying we don't know are Arizona and Nevada. But I see him definitely getting Arizona. I don't know enough about Nevada.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Nevada. But if he loses Michigan and Pennsylvania, but he gets North Carolina, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona.
I think that...
that's what it looks like is happening right now. That's how it looks like it's trending. It looks like he's walking with North Carolina, Georgia, Wisconsin, she's Pennsylvania.
I don't want either of them to win.
Oh no, we are not happy with any of this.
No,
I don't want him to win. I just really want her to lose. I want the Democrats to lose. I want them to understand
genocide is a red line.
Genocide is a red line, and that there needs to be repercussions for how they've been just running their party. At least I could say about Trump, he was elected. He was elected in a primary.
Yeah.
Kamala's never been elected in a primary. So my thing with them is their level of like sanctimony and hubris knows no bounds.
and they're so much less Democratic than the Republicans. So while I don't want Trump to win, at least if he wins, we could say that a lot of people voted for him. Whereas Kamala was rammed down people's throats without giving an option.
I will tell you, Henry, it actually would be in Hawaii's best interest if they could get away from the United States.
Well, there's always been that group there. There've always been there ever since Hawaii was a state. There have been the people there that
and that is like, I mean, listen,
you
think it's bad in Israel. Hawaii is a total colonial settler project, if there ever was one.
It's not good there.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
The Hawaiian people, the indigenous people,
the way
we've
tried to Americanize them, they had their own language, their own culture, customs, everything.
By the way, they still do.
Yeah.
And we can pretend that they don't, but they do. And a lot of the people there still don't like us.
Somebody decided that when they visited, they thought it was amazing. And they thought, hey, let's make this one of our states and make it a travel.
Well, what's amazing, people don't realize how recent it was. So there's people alive who
before Hawaii was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people whose ancestors lived on land. It is like
Didn't
like
Hawaii
Palestine.
not become a state till like 1956?
It was like
that?
and that, but you know, the people that were indigenous people there, that like it is like kind of like it's the same thing as Palestine.
It is.
They all got screwed. They're still getting screwed. There's still infinite amount of policies that screw the people that are the rightful people to that land.
Yeah, it's not entirely surprising. Again, this is why, you know, we come to these moments, especially right now, because we don't want this, the nonsense that comes into politics. And Josie, Florida actually voted for abortion rights and weed.
Not by 60%.
Not by almost a 2/3 majority, which is what
That's
you need.
the problem, because
Very
we were morons. Because yes, the moron part is true. The moron part was at play when we voted for an amendment that made it that we have to have 60% for ballot initiatives to pass. That's when we were morons. So we do have the majority of people here that did support Amendment 3 and Amendment 4. So the majority of people are not morons for this. We were morons for creating this situation in the first place, just to clear that up. So the moron is correct, but not for this.
Yeah, the thing that is surprising people right now is the margins by which Trump is winning. And that is probably what's giving some people pause in terms of the direction of the evening. Pollsters had Trump winning Florida by 8, and he's winning it by 12. That's a pretty big gap of a miss. I don't
believe polls anyway, for a lot of reasons.
No, but here's also the problem with the whole polling thing. And this is why, you know, keep an eye on Iowa, because there was this outstanding poll that came out a couple of days ago by some.
Do we care about Iowa?
No, but I'm using Iowa as an example because it was.
I mean, not personally. I very much do care about Iowa. We've met great people from Iowa. I'd like to go to Iowa.
Iowa's a really good. No, it's a great place.
I very much care about Iowa. I meant their electoral votes are small.
It's not even that. It's that it's a very rural state.
Yeah.
And there was this outlier poll that came out recently from the Des Moines Register, which is, you know, it's a pretty reputable poll. I'm not going to say it isn't. And of course, Des Moines is the capital of Iowa. And the poll suggested that Kamala was winning the state by a few points. And everyone was kind of like taken aback by that. And you get into this whole issue of methodology, and then it's got one outlier poll, but that the overall polling data suggested that Trump was up by about like, 8 to 10 points in the state, which seems to be probably accurate when it's all said and done. But too many people get too concerned about all this. The only thing that I feel pretty confident in saying is that even if Kamala pulls off the inside straight and is able to become president, it is almost assured now that the GOP is sitting at 46 Senate seats and 35 Democratic seats, and you still have all of these other races that are trending red that haven't been called yet, it's almost assured that the GOP is going to get the Senate. And then forget about the House. This is not a wave presidential election. This is maybe we pull this off. If the trends right now,
which why she'd be the sacrificial lamb and they'd be done with her in 28.
Well, it's not only
she'd never get a second term.
Could you even imagine what kind of a boomerang swing that's going to be in the midterms in 26? Like they're going to just run against a literal in over her head, do nothing president. The GOP, if they're not sweeping tonight, they'll sweep in 2 years. And that is the danger of continuing to fuck with the electorate and not have a primary process. And the reason they don't want to do that is because this country is getting so fucking desperate with how unaffordable it is to live in this country. At some point, the dam's going to burst. and people feel at home, or at least they feel accepted in the GOP. And there's a lot of exit polling data that is suggesting that people of color are trending to the GOP in a way that has never been seen probably since the 1960s.
I have to say something about that, because as somebody who spent a lot of time in different political circles, and I am definitely left. Everybody knows I'm like I'm left of the Democrats. I'm not a fan. I'm left of them. I feel more comfortable at Republican gatherings here than I do at Democratic gatherings here.
Sure.
So in my own little microcosm, as somebody who doesn't agree with them on policy, that's not what it's about. But in terms of just how people feel, which is at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
It's true.
That's all that matters. They have to like you. And she's just really not likable. And as much as Trump disgusts the elitist, sanctimonious left, and I actually find him kind of gross. I mean, I've never really liked him. I think he's just kind of lechy and disgusting and pompous and all that. Like, I don't like him. But I can see why people find him more appealing. Look, he went on Joe Rogan, went to Texas, sat there for 3 hours, did an interview. Kamala said that she would go, but if he came to her, okay, nobody. Rogan goes to nobody. He goes to nobody. Everybody goes to him. That's just how it works. And then she'd give him an hour. Okay, that's just like, there's something so cold and not personal. Like, forget it. Forget it. And when you see somebody who endorsed Bernie in 2016 is now endorsing Trump, that's a sign. It's a sign that you don't connect with regular people. It's a sign that regular people do not like you.
Yeah. And the one thing that has been proven to be probably the most impressive part of the Trump phenomenon that has happened for almost a decade now is the amount of funding that the Democratic Party has, comparative speaking, to the Republican Party. Like, it really is a seismic difference in terms of the amount of financial infrastructure that the Democrats have. And yet the GOP is still trending in a winning direction.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that the economic and political infrastructure of this country is broken. And you're selling this idea of, oh, wow, this is really not going to change anything. And you're right, it isn't, because even when Cenk Uygur, and listen, we all have our issues with Cenk, but Cenk has always platformed Jen, especially when she ran against Debbie. And he has a lot of off the wall takes and stuff like that. But the one take he did have today, which is absolutely correct, especially with the trends just indicated by electoral, outcomes as it stands right now. If Kamala wins, nothing is getting done. Nothing. You are going to literally be standing there with your dick in the wind again for 4 fucking years. This is what happens because people say, we're going to push Kamala on day one.
Good luck with that.
Push her where?
Where is she going?
Push her down the aisle to buy more fancy clothes like the $50,000 necklace she was wearing?
No, but where are you pushing her?
Yeah.
She's already canoodling with the Cheneys. Where's she going? Goldman Sachs approved her economic plan. Where are you pushing her? Like, where is she going?
Yeah.
She's going nowhere.
No, the vapid, what this, and here
and
is,
they'll feel so good about it too.
But there's a number, but there's also a number of silver linings about this election that I don't think people are truly understanding, is that if Kamala wins, believe it or not, guys, it really is the end of the Democratic Party. Like, get out as soon as you can, because
I think it is either way, though.
You've got two significant reasons why the Democratic Party is finished if Kamala wins. Number one, it proves that even genocide is not a red line for their base of voters, that they are so petrified. And you really think that they won't come up with another boogeyman? They were doing it to DeSantis because they thought DeSantis was more dangerous than Trump, and he might very well be. But when they thought DeSantis had a chance to win the nomination, and for a while it looked like he was going to be competitive, they were doing the same thing. They were throwing it out there saying, oh my God, we can't let Ron DeSantis become president of the United States. And they'll do it forever. And people will continue to vote paranoid. That's number one. Number two, and this one is even worse, because as much as we are heartbroken and incensed at what is going on across the Atlantic, right here at home, the Democratic Party has proven since 2015, for literally almost a decade, that they are willing to circumvent the actual electoral will of the voter to choose who they want to be their presidential nominee. They rigged. Yes, I said that word. God forbid they'll demonetize our channel worse than it already is.
All right.
They rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders in 2016. They colluded up the yin yang to ensure that Bernie couldn't win in 2020. And this time, they didn't even have a primary. They just decided we're going to do whatever the fuck we want.
So
and
if
you're
she,
still going to do what we say.
And so if she wins, right, we're essentially saying that we don't elect people anymore. Like it's very crazy. And again, she'll be completely worthless. The deep state is the deep state. Things will keep churning. She'll do nothing about anything, and nothing will get done domestically because she's not going to have anybody in Congress.
You know, the amazing
complete waste.
The amazing thing self-critical leftists said, you have to remember, and this is why they had to do it at the beginning, because remember, as much as we're knowledgeable to a degree that maybe the average person and maybe a lot of people in politics are not privy to, we're still small potatoes compared to what really goes on the inside. They could never afford to let Bernie win that Iowa caucus against Hillary Clinton. If he had won the Iowa caucus and then won the New Hampshire primary, all the momentum would have been on his side. Now, they still would have cheated and they would have ratcheted it up to a 10, but you cannot deny the amount of momentum and financial infrastructure that Bernie would have built even stronger had he gotten Iowa and New Hampshire. What if Bernie goes to the Nevada caucuses with the first two under his belt? Do you think that wouldn't have swung 3 or 4 points and he wouldn't have ultimately won? I think he would.
Well, that's the same concept as to why I think that they lie about polls, because people want to support who's already winning. People want to support a winner. So if they feel the momentum, they're more willing to get on. So it's like winning begets winning. That's the problem.
But it's always funny because whenever Bernie's winning, it's much like when Trump is winning. They have to wait till the last possible moment to call the election. You know, kind of like when they called the Arizona primary in 2016 after 1% reporting and said that Hillary won. It's amazing. It's like they're mind readers. It's like they just know.
I just don't think I don't see how they would think they could get a different result this year than they got in 2016.
Probably not.
I don't think they're going to get, nothing has changed in their favor since then. It's only gotten worse for them since then in terms of their amount of people, the amount of people that register as no party. Things have gotten worse for them than 2016. Why would you get a different result?
Now it's getting interesting in Virginia because Trump has opened up a 2-point lead with 57% reporting. That's actually kind of surprising that it's at that number at this late in the game.
No, it isn't.
So we'll see what happens.
None of this is going to be surprising to me.
No. And as of right now, Trump still leading by 3.3 million votes over Harris. And we're 2.5 hours into the count. So
that's high.
That's high. That's high. And so, like I said, it does. Well, here's the thing about the liberal class. Could you imagine if she wins without the popular vote? And then they
won't acknowledge that.
Well,
they'll pretend that didn't happen.
They always talked about it before. I mean, listen, they did everything when Trump was president, but they always addressed the fact that Hillary won the popular vote. She's the real president. She's the real president, you know?
Yeah. Well, so they're saying if he wins Virginia, how do we help now?
If Trump wins Virginia, it is over. Absolutely. That's a state that you can't even see coming, because that would take a state off the map where Trump wouldn't even need to win Arizona. You could throw that away. There's a lot, like I said, and you said this going in, it doesn't mean, again, we're not projecting anything here. Kamala could absolutely still win. What we're saying is that the states that ended up being in play were of much greater consequence to her than it was to him. His paths were much more simpler than it was for her. That's all we're saying.
Don't say we're not predicting. I've been thinking Trump's going to win as a person of reason, as a person of science, I don't see how you can expect a better result than you got in 16. Biden barely won in 20. Barely won in 20. He barely won Broward County in 20. And she's less popular, and they've lost more voters from their party. So what am I missing? I don't understand why you would play stupid games, win stupid prizes, people. I don't understand why you would expect a different result than 16.
Based on the statistical data coming out, it appears that, what a surprise, there was underpolling of Trump voters, not of Kamala voters. Kamala's obviously, but you know,
Don't
the margins
believe
were
the
the
polls.
margins were a lot smaller, and at least initially. I mean, listen, everything could change. The night is still young, but the margins in which they thought that the gap was going to be between male and female in terms of the voting splits. Trump is winning the male vote by 9 points. Again, that was almost 45 minutes ago. There's no telling how the numbers could have changed since then. But Trump 9 points with men, Kamala 12 points with women. Remember, it is an electoral college vote, and so I don't know how that's going to shape out in certain states.
Yeah.
But that's kind of not surprising that the splits were at that level.
No, again, that's why I think we're going to see the same results that we saw in 16. You've got another female, you've got a situation afoot. This time it's a genocide. Last time it was whatever the nonsense was. It was the cheating of Bernie. It was all that circus. But at the end of the day, they're just not, people don't like them.
If you guys want a little distraction, we're going to show you.
Like them.
If there's one thing that we took away from this, and there's a lot of
what
things.
What are you playing? I want to know what you're playing.
Well, there's a lot
you're
of things
not
that we can take
going
away.
into what I don't want to talk about, right?
Oh, no, we're not going to talk about it.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Again, we are, but I'm not going to address it the way that you're thinking.
I don't like the way you even proposed addressing it. So no.
That is good. I mean, listen, there is no question that Dan Osborne is not running as a Democrat. He's running as an independent, but he has the weight of the Democratic Party in Nebraska behind him, and that's fine. You know what? Get an independent in there. Now, if he caucuses with the Democrats, he's gonna be a one-term senator. But we need independent representatives in Congress. And let's be honest, the person, Deb Fischer, that he's running against, you want to talk about a do-nothing senator? And remember, there's 535 federally elected representatives in this country. How many of them do you think we really know? How many of them are actually named?
We only know the ones that are terrible. I would also say something that I heard that was interesting was that if Trump wins, that they were talking about Thomas Massie being appointed to something.
I honestly want Thomas Massie to run for the U.S. Senate, because Mitch McConnell at some point is either going to step down or going to croak.
No, he's the crypt keeper. He's never dying.
I can assure you that
he's never dying. He's immortal.
As I'm alive and breathing, that I will continue to.
And again, like I said before, if he brings on people like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and somebody like Thomas Massie,
not even Thomas Massie, you know who's supporting Trump right now is Ron Paul. Ron Paul has been brought into the fold. He's like, listen, we've got a much better shot at having some type of an anti-war, overspending military budget in the United States with somebody like Trump than we do with somebody like Harris.
Absolutely.
And again, it's not to say that Trump will definitely do it, but Trump is a wild card enough where he might. Harris will definitely not do it because she's a total Manchurian candidate. That's the problem.
And I do think, like I've always said, Trump wants to be liked.
Yeah.
He does. He wants to be popular.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. So one of the major takeaways, and if Kamala loses, still too early to tell, but if she loses, one of the things that we both agreed was the sign of a losing campaign was when they decided to put out not one, but 2 attack ads against Jill Stein in swing states.
That's a desperate look. It's not a good look.
The other thing that has happened over the past few weeks, which again is not entirely surprising, but who can blame them because it's really what they lean on so heavily, is all of these Hollywood celebrities that have just been coming out nonstop to support Kamala Harris.
And you know what? Et tu, Mark Ruffalo? Et tu, Cynthia Nixon?
Why? You're not, again, why is Susan Sarandon the only person with balls?
I don't understand. Mark Ruffalo, I'm so sad.
Why does Susan Sarandon say, go fuck yourself?
Oh, and John Cusack is good. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, they're all on an island. And yeah, it's kind of like paid endorsements. Well,
that's all they have. And I've said it for a long time. I think that from the minute that Kamala was a candidate in 20 through all of this, that her supporters, the quote unquote K-Hive, I've said it, I believe it. It is not real. I think it is paid bots or paid farms or whatever they call those places that do that. And that is a huge amount of her people. And unfortunately, it doesn't lend itself to voters.
Yeah.
Whereas Trump people are Trump people.
See, why? Listen, I normally would not try to envy other states, but why can't we be a little bit more like a blue state like Maryland? Maryland passes women's reproductive freedom with a 3-to-1 margin. Why couldn't we do that?
Well, we're never getting that. And that's why it's so stupid that we now have to have 60%. But here's the best thing about it, right? I can hope that it really does discourage people from moving to Florida.
Yeah, we got a lot of people.
We have way too many people. So I don't, and I think we also need to put a moratorium on a lot of development in in low-lying places. But anyway, so if this keeps people from moving to Florida, good. Truthfully, good. And people with daughters, save yourself.
If you haven't seen Tales from the Crypt, a very good film, a very good show on HBO. I didn't realize it was a movie. But the point, to come full circle, what I was trying to point out is that we could show videos of a lot of different celebrities, influencers, whoever you can think of, that are just going to do the standard talking points about why you must support Kamala Harris.
Well, New York voters approved their abortion, so that's nice. So
New York codifies women's reproductive.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. I'm telling you, it's going to codify in almost every state in the country, and we're going to be the ones being like, well, of course we can't do it in Florida because Florida has to be different. You know, they always say,
and it was a majority. Again, we did have most people that did vote for it.
Yeah. So, listen, this guy is a real. I got to choose my words carefully. I'm just trying not to say anything really stupid, but let's just say that Adam Conover is really annoying and has really bad takes. So this isn't even about supporting Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. This is Adam Conover talking about why you must not support third-party candidates. This is what he had to say.
Here's the problem with third parties. We all want more choices in our political system. I do too. But unfortunately, in the U.S., we have a winner-take-all political system. In other countries where they have proportional representation, if a third or minor party gets just 5% of the vote, then they get 5% of the seats in the legislature.
I just don't know who this guy is.
So,
who is that?
So again, Adam Conover, I think, has done he's like a writer and he's done some shows and stuff like that. But he just let the cat out of the bag. He just said, well, you know, in these other countries, they get 5% of the vote and they can make real change.
Right.
What in the fuck do you think we're trying to do here in the States? We need other options. Even if I was a Democrat or a Republican, you cannot tell me that this two-party system works. It doesn't. It's broken. And you just explained exactly why it's broken and why we should be trying to fight to get them that 5%. You just said it. But he's got some more boneheaded things that he has to say.
So they get real power. But in a winner-take-all system, they don't get power. Instead, they just take votes away from the party that they're more closely aligned with and often throw the election to the party they're most opposed to.
What are you basing that on?
I don't understand.
I'm not like,
I feel like that is so not true. That's not how this works.
What about the fact that the overwhelming majority of people who are supporting Jill Stein were never going to vote for Kamala Harris? Like, what world are you? And this is also the problem with these overwoke, insulated, coastal elite influencer entertainers.
But here's the ultimate problem with what he's saying. And this is what that really pisses people off when I say this. They not only are they assuming that I'm going to subject myself to their lesser of two evil methodology. Like, even if they're assuming that I'm going to do that, they're so friggin' sanctimonious as to who they assume is the lesser evil. Because we do not agree on that. And I am definitely way left. I voted for Jill Stein. I am definitely probably one of the leftier people you know. And I do not oppose Trump more than I oppose Harris. So see, the level of sanctimonium that this person has in just presuming that I'm somebody who's voting for a third party and that by me doing that, I'm only helping the person I am more opposed to. No, not according to what you're saying. If I'd be helping, I'm not more opposed to Trump.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like they assume that Kamala to them is automatically the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't offend them.
We'll continue.
Even if they don't intend to, they functionally act as a spoiler. And you can see that in our political system because the GOP has literally tried to help Jill Stein and the Green Party get on the ballot.
Because the Democrats spend millions to prevent them from getting on those ballots. Or did you forget to mention that?
Right. Like that's the problem. That's the problem. Why are we fighting against parties on a ballot? And then somehow claiming that you're the Democrats.
Oh, of course.
You're the Democratic Party.
Yeah, because they know what's best.
and get them more votes. Now, there are third parties that escape this trap. The Working Families Party is incredibly effective because they run fusion candidates with Democrats they support to pull them to the left, and they organize year-round to build power for working people. But unfortunately, most third parties in America don't do that. Instead, they just run one candidate every 4 years, bank a lot of donations, get a lot of votes, get a lot of press, but the functional effect of doing so is to give power to the party and policies they oppose the most. And
this is just a rebranded version of AOC's speech. So it's almost like they gave this guy a few bucks and said, here, read these points.
I mean, listen, and you know what, Henry, you're right. Collective Art Designs, you're right. Teresa, you're right. You know, at the end of the day, we could have pulled this from anybody. We could have pulled it from that guy, Harry Sisson, that I told you guys about. That's one of those, you know, Zoomer influencers for the Democratic Party who is paid by the DNC hundreds of thousands of dollars. And on top of everything else, this kid comes from one of the most affluent suburbs in the entire country, Rye, New York.
Well, right.
It's
so
like, where do you think they're getting these people from? It has become so elitist in the Democratic.
Well, and that's why they're losing people. Are we connecting with Pat and Lila?
Yes. They're live with a couple of other people right now.
Okay.
They have the link.
Okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Why do we give people like this time? This is like one of the people that I don't know why you want to watch this. Look, people are leaving us.
As much as we wish it to be otherwise, that is simply not an effective political strategy until we get ranked choice voting and proportional representation in America, which, God willing, we will have one day.
How is that going to happen?
It's not like you're out there doing jack shit to change
well,
that
and
fortune.
how is that going to happen? You think that the Democrats are going to support ranked choice voting? You think that we're going to get Kamala to be, to like ranked choice voting? Like we're just going to push them to the left. What is that noise? You hear it, right?
It's like a sander.
What is that?
Yeah, again, the reason why these influencers believe that their opinion matters is because it is a very insulated bubble. Win or lose, there is no denying how much these things have changed. You know, right now, almost 80% reporting Trump sits at a 5-point lead in Georgia. 63% reporting Trump sits at just under a 4-point lead in North Carolina. 59% reporting Trump still at just under a 2-point lead in Virginia. 33% reporting in Pennsylvania, and now the gap has been closed to 3 points. So Kamala leads 51 to 48. So again, very early. Michigan, Kamala leads by 6.5, with 14% reporting.
I feel bad for everybody in Michigan that is trying to take a stand, like the Muslim community there, because it's just so freaking pathetic. That state is pathetic. You people are poisoning your people, like just outwardly, openly, brazenly, and they're fighting back, and they're.
And listen, there's no question that when you think about, I mean, listen, New Mexico has always been a very reliable Democratic state. Like it's just one of those states that's always been the infrastructure of the Democratic Party. It's kind of like Kentucky. Kentucky is a great example of Andy Beshear is a solid governor, but the infrastructure that has been built, unfortunately, due to me, Mitch McConnell has built an empire in Kentucky. Now, granted, as bad as Mitch McConnell is, Kentucky also has the best GOP senator and the best GOP House member, Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, respectively. So it's not a bad state, but when you look at a state like New Mexico, on the flip side, the Democrats have done a good job of building an infrastructure here. Now, Colorado is completely different. Colorado was a red state for a very, very, very long time, but then eastward expansion from the good folks in California.
They ruined Colorado. They did. And as somebody who went to school in Colorado, I can attest the Californians ruined the state.
Especially in Boulder and Denver. Because that's where they went. If you look at the map.
Well, they're also in places like Aspen and Vail.
Well, Aspen I don't count because there's only a few people that live there.
But it's like it's all the Californians. They ruined
and so that's essentially what happened there. But you know what Colorado did do, which is just so ridiculous that we can't do it here, and why cannabis legalization makes so much sense? credit to Colorado when they were still kind of a tweener state. They were going between red and blue, but they passed legal cannabis there. And that has been such a swoon for their economy. They have done so well, especially improving education, because 10% of the revenue they generate from cannabis sales goes to public education.
They handled it much better there. My understanding is, like, in California, it's a disaster.
100%. And therein lies where, like, you have an issue that I think
really, again with him,
you people,
I really you know what, honestly, we're gonna have to like have our own I don't want to talk about these people. I don't want to watch clips of these morons. Why do I have to watch stupid people?
Flint trending red should not surprise anybody.
Good.
Because remember, it's not just about the Abandon Harris movement. That's only one part of the equation. You've also got a horrifically bad attorney general in Dana Nessel. And keep in mind, Dana Nessel, along with Mr. Buttigieg, are going to be duking it out to be the next governor of Michigan in 2026.
Isn't that funny, since he's not even from there?
Carpetbagger.
So stupid.
She'll definitely have the advantage because, number one, she's also gay, so she takes away that card from him. Number two, she's a statewide elected official. He is not even from the state, so she's going to be able to call him a carpetbagger, and it's going to stick. That'll be a fun. That's almost like a cat fight. Let them fight. Let them fight.
I don't think anything.
Missouri was just called for Trump. That's not a surprise.
Again, yeah. Any state that is not a questionable state, just kind of, I feel
Do you
like
say
we know.
Missouri or Missouri?
Missouri.
It's Missouri.
Depends on who you ask.
Missourians. What we can talk about, which I think is an important topic that we should cover.
Please tell me first. Like, whisper it in my ear first.
I don't have to.
Are you sure I want to talk about it?
The one group that is Democratic Party adjacent, that we have said time and again, does really great work, is More Perfect Union.
Yes.
They do a really solid job of covering real stories that matter. And yes, they are very labor union driven and adjacent to the Democratic Party. And that's okay. Not every story you're going to agree with. But you know what you will agree with? I have been saying for how long now, as somebody who's in commercial real estate, private equity is taking over our entire country, especially our single family homes. And it's even happening in a state like Montana.
Why is this surprising? Don't you watch Yellowstone?
Oh, I didn't know that would have anything to do with it.
Well, you're talking about real estate in Montana, yes?
Oh, it's
completely about That's completely the whole point.
It's a big deal. So, More Perfect Union, covering a very important topic in the Big Sky State.
What happens to local residents when the government caters exclusively to those outsiders, tourists, and the ultra-rich?
Yep.
It means that some of the wealthiest people in the country are buying multi-million-dollar vacation homes, and private equity is betting on luxury resorts and high-end development. Montana is creating a new generation of haves and have-nots, with some of the fastest-growing income inequality in the country. And the modern Copper Kings are real estate developers and private equity firms. And the workers that are left out of this modern extraction economy are people like Charles Allen Touchton.
What you doing, Miss T?
Going to your eyes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What did I do?
running that way.
It's probably where...
Looking good on camera, Charles.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to make this mug look good.
Charles Allen has been living out of his RV for almost 3 years. He's one of hundreds of residents of Bozeman that have been priced out of housing.
I am doing brakes on Miss Tina's van because
this is how she makes her money. You know, if this van's not operating properly, then she can't DoorDash. She can't, so she can't make no money.
During the pandemic, remote workers flocked to Bozeman, and there was a 36% jump in people who make over $200,000 a year. In that same time period, Governor Gianforte made Montana a tax haven for the wealthy. Since 2021, he's cut taxes for the 1% and slashed corporate taxes. Housing prices have soared. The average single-family home in Bozeman is now over $830,000.
Can you imagine the average home in Montana, in a town in Montana? The average cost of a home in a state with a population that hovers around 600,000 is $830,000. Do you know how insane that is?
And so where are the working people supposed to live?
Sure as shit ain't it gonna be in Bozeman.
No, but where are the people that work in Bozeman supposed to live?
They're not living there.
Well, okay, so I guess they're not having workers there. So then who's going to be working at their restaurants and who's going to be
play, work?
Yeah.
You know, that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really works, let me tell you. No, it doesn't work.
And the average rent is up to $2,500.
$2,500
in
for the
Montana.
average rent in Montana.
That's
You
crazy.
try figuring that out. I am involved in a real estate investment project where the average rent, again, we are entrepreneurs, but we are not private equity giants. And this area is really desirable and it's by the Gulf Coast. And the average rent is almost $1,000 a month less than this. When you allow these private corporate equity giants to take over your community, you're fucked. It's over. And this is a place where it shouldn't be happening, because usually in these rural conservative areas, people are very protective of their communities. Clearly, money talked and justice walked.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's a resort and tourist town. But really, it's not a place where locals come and just like hang out unless they're here to work.
Yeah.
Actually.
Cross Harbor Capital Partners is a private equity firm based in Boston that has been funneling money into the region for over 20 years. In 2014, Cross Harbor created a subsidiary called Lone Mountain Land Company, a developer that has built and owns half of the real estate in Big Sky.
You can kind of look up.
You have one private equity firm that owns half the real estate in one town.
Let it play for a bit. Let it play.
Been there a little bit. And there's a golf course out there somewhere. Clubhouse, membership costs the price of one of their multi-million-dollar homes, plus like some annual dues.
Some of the members include Justin Timberlake and Tom Brady, as well as some very rich people who you've maybe never heard of.
Literally.
Waffle House chairman Joe Rogers Jr., Blackstone CEO Steven Schwartzman's son Teddy, the guy who founded Slack. Recent reporting from Forbes showed membership was up to $78,000 a year and a one-time payment of $500,000. And like Joseph said, the cost of buying or building your own mansion. Cross Harbor Capital has expanded Yellowstone Club to 885 members and has made the club into what amounts to a standalone city. Work trucks, vans, and commuters drive up and down the road leading to the club, which employs about 1,700 people during its peak season. 74% of the workers in Big Sky commute, and most of those workers live in Bozeman. Big Sky accounts for 1 in 3 of all jobs in Madison and Gallatin County, but none of those workers can afford to live there. In just a few years, the Bozeman tenants have won a lot. They helped introduce and pass a cap on the number of short-term rentals in the city, providing more housing for residents. And now they're fighting for 2 national bills: a right for every tenant to have legal representation when they face eviction, and a cap on any rental property that gets federal loans from the FHFA, which would include Bridger Heights.
They're profiting off of the fact that we're too scared to lose our housing.
On top of all that, they helped elect a new mayor who was a tenant organizer himself. And he says housing will be central to his platform.
And you know what? It's unfortunate that we have to report this, but our good friend Kat Uden, who ran for mayor of Hollywood, Florida, unfortunately lost her race against Josh Levy, who is, this is the exact same race.
Real estate developers. I can't believe how true that story is to Yellowstone. Like, it's amazing to me. Like, really, that's
drawn from life. Well, it's like a lot of,
well, of course, Yellowstone makes it
that.
sexy and violent, like literally, like, but the premise is building these like fancy high-end resorts that the people that live there can never afford to go to.
Of course. And therein lies the rub. It was a competitive race, but Levy had everyone.
He had a lot of money
within the power structure.
And it's like Debbie. I mean, they threaten people. Who knows?
100%.
They threaten, they blackmail, they do all sorts of stuff like that.
But for such a grassroots campaign to only lose by 20 points is very impressive when you get right down to it. And that includes 2 people running in that race that had no business being there in the first place. So,
well, there were 2 people that were essentially put in the race by Josh
And that guy Flores somehow got 10% of the vote.
Right. What happens here, one of the strategies that people like that use when like somebody who's progressive gets in the race is they go and find someone else to get in the race and use that exact platform so that they just dilute the votes. And so they need less to win.
It's true.
And it's common, actually. It's disgusting. But that's the kind of stuff that people like him do.
You see, now when you think about the outcome of this election,
I told you my friend went to both those candidates' houses. I told you that, right? She went to both those candidates' houses to meet them, knocked on their doors, and I, with very good knowledge and authority, can tell you that they were both basically shill candidates. Like she met them, she's like, they're not even really any, like you could tell. She's like, you could tell they're not even real. I'm just saying. So that is the kind of shit that happens.
The sad reality is that no matter who wins this election, this is the real crisis.
It won't be us.
These are the real problems.
We won't be winning.
And so one of the things that
we're up to 198
happens. And so I believe a couple more, Utah and Montana were just called for Trump. But again, that's not surprising.
Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota. Yeah, none of that's remotely.
Idaho is going to obviously go to Trump in a minute. So yeah, like I said, the map right now is favoring Trump, but it's still early.
And of course, all the states that are still not counted are the ones that we all know are the swing states because we know. And how many, let me ask people, like, is anybody confident in the system that it's really legit? Is anybody really confident in that?
How could you be? Because again, and we're going to get into, and that is something we are going to talk about, even though we haven't made a clip about it, but I'll get to that in a minute. It's the media. The one thing that will happen, win or lose, Donald Trump has completely destroyed corporate media. They will never, ever recover from this because everything is trending in another direction. Over 50 million people heard his interview with Joe Rogan. And Kamala Harris said, I ain't doing that interview.
She actually thought that Joe Rogan would go to her.
And Harachnu,
freaking nuts.
Harachnu, I will tell you, yes, Yellowstone is a super volcano in the northwest corner of Wyoming. And when that volcano erupts, now granted, it only erupts like every, I don't know, 13,000 years or whatever the number is.
Well, we'll probably be long gone. We're dying from, that's true.
Sure.
Right. We don't know when that happens.
Hey, in our luck, I mean, considering the trends we've seen in our lifetime, who the hell knows? It might actually happen to us. But when that pops its top, half the country is going to disintegrate.
No. How far does that expand? I don't think
it's supposed to. The lava flow out of this particular geyser is going to expand like thousands of square miles. It's well,
like, we're going to be underwater here, so that won't be our concern. We need scuba gear.
Maybe the Bible is true. Maybe all those Book of Revelations predictions might actually be real.
Maybe the Earth is just tired of
dealing with our shit
and is going to shake us like a bad case of fleas. Yes, that I do believe. I'm not concerned about the Earth.
You know, Henry,
the Earth will cure itself.
Henry, think of it this way. You know, when they have the opportunity to find, you know, the definitive image of the decimation of Camden, New Jersey, which for a time or two, and maybe still in many ways, is considered the worst city in the entire country in terms of danger, in terms of poverty, economic opportunity. The one thing that you can't miss when you're driving along the causeway heading into Philadelphia is the abandoned Campbell's Soup building, the original Campbell's Soup distribution center. It has been abandoned forever. And this is an example of the plight of the economic downfall of unregulated capitalism. And as a result, it just sits there. You have so much real estate that could be reutilized for God knows how many different things. And this is a very blue part of the United States, mind you. And they've done nothing. They've done absolutely nothing. And the only interest that they truly have is very similar to what's going on in Gaza. This is about how can we decimate this area and build it up into wealth development? This isn't about what's good for the average person. It's about what's good for the people who can make the most money. This is one of the things about when you're an investor. Do you take into consideration what your investment is going to do to the local community? As an entrepreneur, I do care. Private equity doesn't give a fuck. And that's how you end up with areas like Bozeman, Montana. Bozeman, Montana is destroyed. It is now a rich private playground for the likes of Zuckerberg and Bill Ackman and Bill Gates. And do they care? No, their justification is we're the job creators.
They need a governor like Kevin Costner.
What? Oh, guy who just takes care of shit?
Well, I'm talking, it's the character. It's the John Dutton character.
Jen, are we depressed that Trump is trending in the right direction? Are we depressed?
No.
I'm not depressed.
I'm depressed about the overall condition of humanity. I'm depressed about what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank. I'm depressed about a lot of things. Like that keep me down on the regular basis, that are really harsh. Trump actually Kamala.
If it is true,
the truth is it's bad either way. It doesn't matter.
If it is true that 44% is reporting in Pennsylvania and Trump is about to take the lead, that is a very bad sign.
And she's losing ground in Michigan as well.
So you said that this was going to be a wipeout. That's what you predicted.
I personally believe that. And that the only thing that I do hope that it is a blowout, because I don't want there to be any confusion. I don't want there to be any questioning, and I don't want it to be able to be blamed on Jill Stein.
If you guys want to talk about
who I voted for,
if you guys want to talk about a electoral trend that is maybe what you could consider a touch point of this election that kind of crystallizes exactly where things are going right now. Donald Trump just won Anson County, North Carolina.
I told you they're angry in North Carolina. This is not a typical, it's up until the past couple of hurricanes. I think that North Carolina might have been in a different frame of mind. And this is one of those things where it's not. And so I don't think it was necessarily predictable.
Donald Trump just won Anson County, North Carolina. The county is 40% black. Trump becomes just the second Republican to win this county since the 1870s. You want to know who the other person was who won this county? Donald Trump. The exit polling has shown that the numbers weren't lying when they said that people of color were trending over to the GOP. This is not a game.
No.
And what we have talked about, what have we talked about repeatedly over the last month, and especially over the last week? Who did Kamala decide was the most important surrogate for her to travel, especially into the Rust Belt with, to win over voters? Liz Cheney.
Well, again, Obama, they've all been horrible as far as surrogates. Okay. But I was telling you that the people that I know in the Black community, and by that, I mean people that not bougie, not your Kamala sorority sisters,
but
they prefer Trump.
But what you have to remember, yes, but no, is that the people that the Democratic Party have embraced with open arms,
that's very true.
These are the people in society that more than anyone else do not want to be inconvenienced.
That's the thing. This is very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable for them. And for them, they're not interested in this for altruistic or even selfless reasons. This is all about me. I'm uncomfortable.
Exactly.
I don't like Trump and I need to get back to brunch.
They need to be comfortable. They're not happy being uncomfortable. I don't care about their discomfort. Not even a little. What I'm hopeful, and I've said this, I believe last time.
Whose discomfort do you care about? I know who I care about. I care about the Palestinians' discomfort. I care about the people who are living in abject poverty in this country for decades. Their pain,
I care about the people in Flint, Michigan.
I care about them.
I care about the vulnerable people, and the vulnerable people are not the people that are coming out for Kamala.
I care about the vulnerable people in the rural parts of this country that feel that Trump is the only person listening to them. Think about what that feels like. And I've told this story before. And
Colorado.
That's expected.
Yeah.
So Kamala just won Colorado. When I was driving from St. Louis to Springfield, Illinois, this was I want to say this was back in like 2018, somewhere around there, 2018, 2019. And I'm driving on Interstate 55. And let me tell you, Illinois, it's Chicago, and then it's this rural farm state.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm driving on this interstate and I see something out of a John Mellencamp song. You've got this shotgun shack, red barn sitting on the side of the highway. And it looked like it was abandoned. I couldn't tell. Maybe some people live there. Maybe they don't.
I love barns. I take pictures of barns.
But I'll tell you what I did see. I'm driving, and in my rearview mirror, I can see that there was something etched in the side of the barn in huge letters. You know what it was? Trump. And that, to me, it was so clear in that moment what that meant.
I've had that experience driving in rural parts of New York. And that's what I was trying to say before. Like, I've spent a lot of time in the Finger Lakes region, Buffalo area, like Western New York, upstate New York. Like, I've been in that area. Way a lot of Trumpies.
And what I will also say,
I know, right?
Which I also believe is very true, and I think a lot of you would probably agree. I don't think they ever truly got Trump. I don't think they wanted to get him. They don't want to humanize him. They don't want to know why people see him as somebody who's worth supporting. This is the classic example of the upper class liberal who feels the need to point down at somebody.
That's all they do.
And tell you don't know better. We know better.
We know what's good for you.
We know you can't afford groceries. We know you don't have health care. We know you don't have a living wage. We couldn't even give you tuition-free trade schools to go out and learn how to make your own money. But we're going to tell you what's good for you.
And I will tell you, the black voters are definitely coming out more for Trump than I've ever seen. I actually saw a clip ever since Joe made that comment about his supporters being garbage. Literally, the MAGA people are going to vote wearing garbage bags.
Yeah.
They're showing up. And I actually saw a clip, and it was an older black woman. I want to say this was in Georgia. I want to say it was somewhere in the South. I think it was Georgia. And she was all happy to be coming back from voting in her garbage bag. I feel like the Democrats need to have their asses handed to them for all of the shit that they've pulled and all of their freaking sanctimony. It's so disgusting.
Maybe it does, but as we know, the only thing that I can say that's really happening right now, which I am actually very thankful for, is that it appears that they're actually counting these votes in a relatively decent amount of time. They're not.
I don't know what's taking Pennsylvania as long as it is.
I mean, listen, Trump is now ahead by a point at 50%.
But it's going up and up and up.
And that's
again.
not a good sign for. Well, I have said this for the past probably month, maybe 2 months. He's got a path that if he hits it, it's 270.
It's already turning.
Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. That's 270 electoral votes. He's the president. So it doesn't matter what happens in any of these other states,
including Michigan, including Arizona. But again, I truly believe that Arizona is going to be Trump.
And the fact that Maine right now, well, I don't know why Maine is taking so long to count. Or maybe Maine.
First of all, do you have any idea how big and rural Maine is?
Very.
I don't think people really understand. And Maine is not easy to traverse.
No, but Maine, if anybody knows Maine, it's basically it's like quarter of the state in the lower left corner. That's where everybody lives. And then everybody else lives.
There's like 12 people north of that.
Yeah. They all live on hundreds of acres of land, which is
There's
very
only
nice.
like 12 people up there.
Yeah.
And Maine has ranked choice voting, which is always a plus. But Maine is,
right now,
moose in Maine.
So right now, the GOP leads the Democrats 47-36 in the Senate. Right now, it's a +1 for the GOP, which technically means 2, because anytime you flip a seat, that's what ends up happening. Now, my understanding is that Ruben Gallego, they haven't called it yet, but it looks like Gallego
that looks pretty.
That Senate race. So it does appear that I don't know what. I guess there's 2 seats, but Dan Osborne is sitting in a very good position right now. As an independent in Nebraska. And so he's up by 6 points on Deb Fischer. Listen, get all the do-nothing pieces of garbage out of politics. Bernie Moreno is opened up a comfortable lead on Sherrod Brown, and it looks like it's going to be another pickup for the GOP. That state in particular pisses me the fuck off because Sherrod Brown is good to labor. He has been good to labor. That is a labor state that votes red. Governor DeWine is a generally pro-labor governor in Ohio. The fact that
what does that tell you?
They're going to fucking lose Sherrod Brown from the Senate. How many more signs do you need?
They don't care.
Ted Cruz, with 67% reporting, holds a
He's not losing.
9-point lead
He's
on
not
Colin
losing.
Allred.
He's not
He is
losing.
now up almost 800,000 votes.
He's not losing. I wish that sometimes people, look, but the reason that these campaigns is literally to feed the WCCC.
Oh, of course.
And so the white collar campaign carnies have to make a living, which is why they have to have these. Like, for example, Debbie Mercoso Powell, she had no chance of beating Rick Scott, not even a little bit, not even a slight
And then you
chance.
hear the stories about the fact that the money that was coming into Florida was going to the Kamala campaign. Why wasn't it going to down ballot races? Why wasn't it going to make sure that enough funding was there to get to the 60% margin for women's reproductive freedom? Because the consultants have to be paid. That's more important than issues.
It
in
is.
case you haven't noticed.
Right.
And if I'm
they put more money into the Kamala race down here than they did into the ballot initiative.
If I do a mea culpa, I want to know the exact numbers that was spent on the Kamala ground game in the state of Florida, comparatively speaking, to how much they spent, especially on Amendment 4. I want to know the numbers. I want to know exactly what they gave to them versus what they were.
And you're talking about the Florida Democratic Party.
1,000%. I want to know what the DNC was giving to the Florida initiative to get Amendment 4 passed. I want to know exactly this issue that we must vote for Kamala.
Stop yelling.
We must vote for Kamala. I want to know what those numbers are. I want to know how much you spent, because these were two statewide races. Kamala's running statewide to win the 30 electoral votes in Florida. We are trying to codify women's reproductive freedom.
No, we failed.
Yeah, we failed. Why did we fail? I'd like to know.
I'm thankful I don't have daughters. I am. Like, that's scary to me. I honestly, if you've got daughters and you live in Florida, you should be very concerned.
Yeah.
You should be very concerned. And by the way, the next closest place that you can go to obtain said abortion will be North Carolina.
And the big problem here in Florida is that half the population lives south of Lake Okeechobee. So being able to get out of this state, not easy. Whether you are on the East Coast or West Coast, Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, Monroe County, Collier County, Lee County, Sarasota.
Put that up. That does sound about right, actually. Yeah, I don't know the number, but that doesn't seem off to me. Like, there's
and they all live in Aventura, Florida.
They're all down here. We need to talk about the immigration problem. We have a serious immigration problem in Florida right now.
The problem here, Henry, is that, and this is where, like I said, the numbers coming in, it's going to become a lot more interesting, because right now, Amendment 4 sits at 57 yes, 43 no. So it has a comfortable majority, but it doesn't have 60%, which is basically it's a super majority. That's what you need.
And we were dumb enough to vote for that. When I say we, I mean the theoretical we. I did not vote for that amendment. I read it and thought, okay, so we're going to need to have more. But I read it and thought that's stupid. And yet it passed. So yes, we need 60%.
And one thing I didn't end up doing, and I probably should have in terms of videos, I will tell you, if there's one thing I will say about the GOP, and I've always said this about the GOP, there has to be a separation of church and state.
I just got an exit poll question.
Oh.
Who did I vote for?
Not for the person you want me to.
Not your douche.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think dual citizenship is necessarily a bad thing, but you have to remember what those reasonings are. And so what I want to know when it comes to Amendment 4 in the state of Florida, I want to know how much you have to imagine, because we got the fundraising emails all the time. They had to have done a poll. They had to have known where the numbers were.
They did.
And what they were going to need to invest in.
They did,
in order to
and
push
didn't do it.
They
did. They knew. We knew we needed 60. They knew that. They knew the polling. They knew it was going to be tight.
So if everybody is telling you,
and then they put money behind Kamala Harris.
Think about this: when everyone is out there telling you that you must go out there and vote for Kamala Harris, and yet at the same time, the number one issue, especially when friend of the show, Matt Orfala, does Man on the Street at Kamala's late night rally in D.C. and is asking all of the Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia, suburban, wealthy Democrats, what is the biggest issue in this race? She's a woman. She supports women's reproductive rights. You're going to tell me that in a country where we know it's not going to pass at the Supreme Court level, that you're going to have to codify it at the state level, that they didn't know what the score was in terms of what needed to be done to pass it in this state?
All right. So Pennsylvania is now trending Trump. She's losing ground in Michigan as well. It's not looking good. That was her biggest lead, was in Michigan, and now that's gone.
Trump is up by 2 points in Pennsylvania with 52% reporting. Again, if this comes down to Pittsburgh, I don't think she's going to carry enough there. Trump, as of right now, has a 5.2 million vote lead in the popular vote.
How was it when he ran against Biden? What was it?
He lost by 6 million votes, I want to say.
The popular vote.
Correct.
Okay.
You want to talk about flipping it upside down?
And what was his popular vote in 16?
He lost by 2.7 or 2.8.
Right. But what was right? So this is going to be clear.
I think right now, at this current point in the game, even with California not counting, I think it's going to be very hard for her to flip the popular vote. That's going to be a tough pull. Anything's possible because, again, she's going to win the 3 left coast states, as they say. But will she? I have to think about what percentage. Trump leads her by 6.2 points in the national popular vote. What percentage she would have to pull in order to flip it? That's the thing. She would obviously have to win California alone by probably at least 5 million votes. Listen, as I've said, I don't put anything past California because that is the state that they always like to say, well, we're going to get what we're going to get. Okay, that's fine. But this is why I support the Electoral College. I think
not so much.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be modified.
I don't like it. It was created basically to keep slaves out of the equation.
Well, think of it this way. If Trump wins the popular vote, and they have been screaming from the rooftops how we must eliminate the Electoral College. If she wins without the popular vote, you think they're still going to say that shit?
No, of course not.
No.
But I
because
don't.
Politics is nothing but hypocrisy. That's all it's ever been.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Still holding steady. Trump has opened up his lead in North Carolina. It's now at 6 points. He is holding a 4.5 point lead in Georgia. He has slipped. Kamala has retaken the lead in Virginia by 0.5 point. Trump is now still. Listen, Virginia is just like Illinois. It's all about the DC suburbs versus the rest of the state.
And Virginia isn't a state that we even were considering being in play. So it really doesn't even, that's not even really part of the equation in terms of that. Virginia is just, that would be an anomaly.
And now Trump has officially taken the lead in Iowa, and he is not going to give it back. So for the people out there that were talking about this state trending in their direction, this is why, remember, and how much does it cost to do a really good poll?
It's expensive.
Really good poll.
It's expensive to do a really good poll. And the problem is I don't trust the polls because I know that you can, depending on how you phrase it, you can get whatever results you really want.
Oh, yeah.
And so when the Democrats put out, or a Democrat aligned poll comes out, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it because from what I see when I talk to people, when I go to middle America type places, it's not what those polls tend to be reporting. Working people are not where the elitist pollsters think they are. It's just very disconnected.
You may be right about that, Adam. I'm not going to say that that's probably not a possibility.
I would not be remotely surprised.
Yeah. Come on, man.
My understanding is that he can't stand her.
They can't stand each other. But then again, a lot of people in politics can't stand each other. Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott hate each other's guts. But the one thing that we've always said about the GOP is that they're very often able to just put it all aside when it comes to the general election. They just say, listen, we're going to war with the Democrats, and that's it. All of the times, doesn't matter. You do what you got to do. You want to primary each other. You want to beat each other up. Look at what happened over the course of the last year and a half between Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy, and how Mike Johnson got in there, and everyone was wondering how the hell this is happening, blah, 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 blah,
it's
blah.
happening.
And all the while, the Democrats are cheering, oh my God, see, they're not in it. And it's oh yeah, we in fight, but believe me, when it counts, we're coming for your ass. And that's how they treat it. And self-critical leftist. I'm not putting that one up there.
Okay, Arizona numbers are starting to come in. Interesting.
Yeah, Arizona just 48% in. It's neck and neck between Kamala and Trump. Again, I don't.
They start with Phoenix. If you start with
that's
Phoenix,
the thing. It's all about Maricopa County. That's all that matters. It's all about those numbers in Maricopa County. That will determine exactly where this election goes. If she does not clean his clock in Maricopa County, he will win. And that's.
And I really think their issue is not going to.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's going to work. I don't know. I just don't see how she. I don't see her pulling. I don't know. I'll be surprised. I believe that he's going to win, and I think he's going to win handedly, and I think he's going to win the popular vote.
Well,
that's just my feeling.
Like I said, I don't know. Right now, things are still. She's closing the gap in Georgia. It's a 3-point lead with 88% reporting. Again, this is why people get really skirtish about how these things are done. Of course, there's probably more outstanding votes coming in from Fulton.
I don't have any confidence in it. For all I know, tons of votes are sitting in the back trunk of someone's car and never get counted as far as mail-ins. I have no faith in any of it, which is why it's sort of like they could say whoever wins.
Trump has opened up a 3-point lead in Pennsylvania. Again, here's the thing, and this is the problem. They don't all count at the same time. That to me is a huge part of the problem here. We don't know for certain where
it's almost like they wait and see where they need to manipulate. They wait and see where they need to manipulate.
Well,
because otherwise, why would all the East Coast states not already be in? Like, this is what I don't understand.
3.5 hours later, and you don't know.
That's why people I don't trust it. So it's almost like they hold off in the swing states to figure out where they need to nip and tuck and manipulate to get the desired result. As Kim Iverson, I told you, she believes Trump will win, but yet he won't get to be president. We'll see. I mean, I don't trust it. That's ultimately the problem. I don't trust it.
Iowa has just been called for Trump. It hasn't been updated as of yet, but the idea that they threw out a poll that said that Kamala was winning Iowa, you should be it's one thing if you call a state like Nevada and say that she's going to win and doesn't win, but Iowa was never part of the equation. And the fact that you said she was going to win the state, and this is considered a reputable pollster, there is nothing reputable about this.
Well, that's it's silly.
It's all about money, all of it.
They manipulate the outcome by manipulating the prediction.
Correct.
And
I agree with that.
Well, and that's
1,000%.
So if they sit there and put that out there, people people want to vote for winners. So the more they put that out there, which is why I don't trust them.
Yeah, still too early. But yeah, Iowa's going to get called. Right now, Trump is holding a 1-point lead with half the votes counted. In Wisconsin, Michigan is nip and tuck. Kamala has a 0.7% lead. But again, Michigan is one of those states.
It's also 21% reporting.
It's probably not going to get called tonight. So that's gonna go nip and tuck.
I don't understand why it takes so long. I really don't.
I don't either. It is what it is. But the fact that Trump is sitting on a 6-point lead on the national popular vote, that is not something anybody saw coming. That is definitely a prediction that nobody was actually. Well, I'm not saying you don't count, but who are you?
Who am I? I predicted he was going to win the popular vote. I predicted that.
You did say he would win the popular vote.
I think that he's going to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, again, depending on where they have to nip and tuck, they have to figure out, that's why the swing votes don't come in. They hold out and so they can manipulate them.
Nikolai, I would say that
absolutely
they are definitely selected, but Trump is not selected. He is an anomaly, and that is why they have to move heaven and earth. But there is
Kamala was selected.
There is 1,000%. But there is a boiling. The fever pitch in this country right now is over the top.
It needs to be over,
and people are really distrustful of everything that's going on, and I don't blame them. Because we don't have hand-marked paper ballots. People still count votes on voting machines. You don't know. And the audacity of the institution.
I don't trust the chain of custody. The chain of custody is a real problem. People, if you don't know what chain of custody is, that's why O.J. Simpson was not convicted for the murders. They had a chain of custody problem. Our elections have a chain of custody problem. I don't trust that what I put in is what gets recorded. And I don't trust that everybody's gets recorded. And I have very little, and I'm not talking just specifically here in Broward. I actually think that Joe Scott's been doing a decent job down
I
here.
agree. He has been doing a decent job.
I think that they've been pretty good down here. I've had nothing but a positive
voter experience. And I had to take Graham to go vote in person. So even though I already voted, I had to take my son to go vote in person today. And it was very user friendly on election day at my polling place.
We have to demand that elections are more transparent. And there is a very simple way to do it. Demand hand-marked paper ballots.
Hand counted.
Hand
counted.
Yeah, but same thing. That if we don't
Well, no,
have
we can mark them by hand, but then they get counted by a machine. We want them hand counted.
Hand counted paper ballots. And it's not hard.
No.
You just, again, it's a
lots
public
of places do it. Countries do it. Friggin' Venezuela does
I know
it.
we can't turn everything into a profit.
Venezuela has fairer elections than we do, and yet we're trying to overthrow their country.
But think about it. Why don't we have that? Why do we not have something?
Well,
as simple
I can
as
tell
that?
you why. Well, because the Diebold people and the machine people get contracts and make a lot of money. Plus, it allows the party's ability to manipulate results. If you do it, if you count it by hand, you cannot manipulate the results as well. It's harder. It's much easier when you've got basically these protected, patented, copyrighted programs that you don't even have to share your data processing. We don't even have access to the machines and their inner workings. It's all protected.
Yeah. No, it's
very scary. So that's the thing. Like, you could count this any which way you friggin' want to.
The GOP is now sitting at 48 Senate seats. Right now, in terms of the trends, it does look like, again, anything can happen. We don't know where the last 20% of the vote count in Ohio is still outstanding, but Bernie Moreno leads Sherrod Brown by 5 points. And
that's pretty significant.
Would be another pickup for the GOP.
That's pretty significant.
It is. It's a big deal. Obviously, Dave McCormick is running against Bob Casey, and it is a 1-point lead.
Might have been rattling there.
Trump has now opened up an even bigger lead against Kamala. It's now 3.1 points. He is up by over 125,000 votes. Virginia is still neck and neck at 12,000 votes. Kamala is up 49.4 to 49 with 68% reporting. North Carolina, Trump holding steady with a 6-point lead, 75%.
That's significant.
Trump is still holding steady at 3.1 points up in Georgia with 88%.
They're going to call North Carolina pretty soon.
They might.
They have most of their, why would they not?
Trump has officially taken the lead over Kamala Harris in Arizona. That's not surprising. I think of all the swing states that I felt were definitely in Trump's column going in, Arizona was the one state where I just thought, yeah, considering the issues with the border, especially. And
we both predicted Arizona and North Carolina.
And you know what? Maybe here is the one shocker state that CanCon actually mentioned. He actually thinks that Trump is going to flip New Mexico. Now, that would be very interesting because New Mexico is a border state.
And that is a problem.
35% reporting Trump holds almost a 1.5-point lead over Harris. Now, again, in New Mexico, it's all about Albuquerque and Santa Fe. So it really just depends on what the vote numbers are coming in or how the numbers are coming in that state.
But it doesn't, I'm not seeing it.
51% in Wisconsin. Trump is holding a 1.3% vote share. Again, Wisconsin it is all.
Harvey will be mortified.
I'm sure he will be. Wisconsin is all about Madison and Milwaukee, especially Milwaukee. Look, no matter what happens here, the idea that Trump is trending, I want to say, towards a popular vote victory is
now it's happening again.
It's not, it shouldn't be too surprising. It shouldn't be. But that doesn't mean he's going to win. And this is the thing about the Electoral College. And if Kamala wins with the Electoral College and not the popular vote, I will again say I still support the Electoral College because I do think that representation in this country does matter. And let me assure you, if you think that spending is bad now in general elections, you wait and see what happens if this thing becomes a strict popular vote across the board. You will have billions upon billions of dollars that will be spent in these elections. We're already in crisis mode in terms of the type of money that gets spent. And that was the thing that I would have said to Kat when she was running against Josh Levy. I really wanted her to win. And I was out there door knocking with her. Even after door knocking with Jen, I wanted to help because I believed in her cause. And I think she was a great candidate. And she did a great job. She didn't have any money. She didn't have the type of money that you needed to go up against a 2-term, 8-year incumbent who is filthy.
Fortunately, this will be his final term. They give them the mayors there get 3 terms, 3 4-year terms. So this will be his last, and then they'll be done with him in Hollywood. Fortunately for them. But yeah, they're only stuck with him for 1 more term. I mean, as far as like people, we're stuck with Rick Scott for eternity. We're stuck with Debbie for eternity.
I don't know if we're stuck with Debbie.
Maybe not. No, but we're stuck with Rick Scott until he decides he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
Basically.
You see, when we have some friends that are in the upper liberal class that we're just not going to say who they are, but when you have them putting out tweets saying that Steve Kornacki is too biased. No,
I don't even know who that is.
Steve Kornacki is the guy that basically rolls up his sleeves and goes in front of the electoral board and like does like all the.
I haven't watched that since Tim Russert.
But the point is that when you start complaining about shit like that, it shows you just how absolutely insulated in your bubble you really are. What do you want him to say? Kamala's going to win every state and everything's going to be okay.
They're very uncomfortable. The fact that they think that she's the lesser evil speaks volumes to me. Why do people assume that she's the lesser evil? Because she's more pleasant?
So Kamala,
because she doesn't put out offensive tweets? No. Her boss, our president, just sniffs and kisses women's head. Like, they're all disgusting.
Self-critical leftists, thank you for the update. Yes, Kamala obviously just got a huge vote swing in New Mexico. It probably was a huge count out of Santa Fe and Albuquerque. Again, it's still 61% reporting. New Mexico was not a state that was in play, but again,
just like Virginia was not.
Well, of course. And like I said, right now, and here's the thing. Here's the thing that is so fucking ridiculous that I just don't understand. This is where people have the right to question what the fuck is going on here. They have held the vote in Georgia. It is sitting at a 3.1% lead for Trump at 88% reporting, and they stopped counting for basically the past 30 minutes. What the fuck is going on?
They're holding back the swing states to make sure where they need to make their adjustments for who wins and who loses in their political theater.
Now, all of a sudden, Kamala has closed the gap in North Carolina. It is 2.5-point lead for Trump with 84% reporting. Pennsylvania is still trending in Trump's direction at 57% reporting. But again, it all depends on where the votes come in these major cities.
Where's New Hampshire? How long could it take to count votes in New Hampshire? There's like 10 people live there. My cousins live there. Why does it take so long?
57% reporting. Kamala has a 5-point lead.
Not that I care. Again, not that New Hampshire matters, but just as a point of like, why is it not completed?
Trump has a 1.5-point lead in Wisconsin at 54% reporting. I don't know why they haven't called Iowa yet. Other places have called it. Trump has a 12-point lead in Iowa.
Oh, my God. Again, they have to hold back certain states to see where they can finagle results.
It's not only that. I mean, again,
I don't believe any of this.
Trump has a 10-point lead in Kansas with 70% reporting, and they're not calling a red. Again, part of it is also because they also, again, it's 10:30. It's still not late. They haven't officially. They
need to keep everybody online. They have to keep everybody interested. So they have to prolong it. It's almost like how they have to save all the good stuff for November sweeps. It's kind of like that. Ooh, Yellowstone back on Sunday.
Oh, that's sweet.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, there's a lot of these outstanding races right now where they're just not getting called. And look, I think you should always be mindful and wait for the final count. I do think that is very important. But there's also something to be said for why are you holding back votes? Just count the votes. When people say it's rigged, this is why they say it. They get concerned that, we have this batch of votes over here. We haven't counted yet, but now we'll count them because
or they hold off on doing their mail-in ballots till all the other ballots are counted. Like, why are we playing games? Well, I'm telling you, that's why I think it's because you have to hold back to know where you can manipulate numbers.
I think that's something to
again,
say.
The beauty of machines. You can manipulate these results. They're proprietary. You can't even see their software.
Trump has taken the lead in Michigan, but again, only 24% reporting, 1.7% lead. Again, Wisconsin is much higher up the chain where Trump is holding a 1.5 1.5-point lead at 54% reporting. Minnesota very slowly trickling in. Again, this is part of the problem.
But you know what? Like you said, let's say hypothetically she wins. So Congress is gone, Supreme Court's gone, Fourth Estate's gone.
Yeah.
What is she going to do anyway?
Well,
even if she wanted to, which she doesn't.
If there was one thing I think we can universally agree upon, we should all be able to agree upon this, is that the Democrats really put all of their eggs in the Stop Trump basket. They have decided we don't care about the Senate, we don't care about the House, we don't care about ballot initiatives in key states that need to pass
Clearly.
clauses that matter. This is going to be a razor thin if she pulls it out, but it will have been at the complete detriment of everybody else.
And I don't see her getting the popular vote.
Well, no, right now, I don't see how she gets it either, because he's really up in the popular vote, like by a really big margin.
I will be curious to see how they handle that if she does win the Electoral College but loses the popular vote.
And they have been on nonstop about this.
Nonstop. I'll actually be curious to see how the league handles it, because the league, one of their key issues is bringing back popular vote. They want popular vote. Now, the league is they're nonpartisan.
No,
and
they're liberal, but they generally stay out of the partisan politics.
They do, but it'll be interesting to see how so many of their people. But here's what I hope. How many people was it that unsubscribed to the Washington Post?
200,000.
Okay. My hope is that all of those people leave. Expatriate if Trump wins. I want everybody who is threatening to leave if Trump wins, please leave. Leave, take your car with you, most likely your cyber truck, and good riddance. I want them to go. If anybody who clutches their pearls about Trump, please go. You're the problem. You're why we can't have nice things. You're the reason we're having a censorship situation. Please go.
Yeah.
200,000 people leaving would really help thin out traffic here. It would help significantly. So I'm really hoping that those people leave if Trump wins. That's my hope.
It looks like Tim Kaine is probably going to hold his Senate seat, although there was something very interesting that happened on election eve, if you want to call it that. But on Saturday night, again,
I'd vote for Hung.
I'm not saying anything.
I'd vote for Hung.
Hung Kao is a retired Navy veteran.
Be voting for Hung Kao.
Yeah. Hung How?
I'd be just voting for Hung. I'm voting for anybody named Hung.
Tim Sheehy, Lee. Oh, wait. What? So what race was I looking at? No, I thought that, again, you can never tell. You can never tell. 1 second, it looked like they had 53% reporting. Now it's 4% reporting, but
I don't think you were looking at the right place.
So there's basically 3 pickups right now on the table for the GOP, although depending on what happens in Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick could beat Bob Casey. That is definitely possible, although, again, that's probably less likely, just as it looks like Ruben Gallego is ultimately going to beat Carrie Lake. I thought that they called out. I don't know why they said that they did, but that was a little early to be doing that. But when you compare the numbers, for example, Trump has just under a 3-point lead in Pennsylvania, whereas McCormick has a 1-point lead against Bob Casey. Now, granted, there is still that incumbent advantage. I do think that matters. I do think that there is something to be said for that.
Literally, they're just not submitting the swing states.
Yeah.
They're literally the swing states, or the states that we all know are the ones that they need, are the ones that are not in.
So since we last spoke,
ridiculous.
2 more states have come into the Trump column. Again, no surprises. Kansas and Iowa have officially been called. Yeah. Ann Seltzer, how'd that poll work out for you, saying that that Kamala was going to win?
Any relation to Brian?
Seltzer.
Oh, Seltzer. Okay.
Well, listen, I said time and again.
He's back. I saw him back on something. He's back.
If anybody is hoping that Donald Trump wins the presidency, it is me, because then they're going to definitely ask me for my wisdom about Donald Trump and why we are not doing good enough.
He is back. Did you see him?
Seltzer.
Did you see him?
Yes.
Stelter. He's back.
Brian Stelter.
He's back.
And I will say this.
I swear to God, every time I see him, I want to put one of those beanie helicopter propellers on top of his head. We did on one of our bootlicker graphics.
No, and he's
so gross.
Yeah, and well, not only that, and not only is he gross, but he's Martin Prince from The Simpsons. Like he is that character. He is the brown.
What was the story with his wife? His wife was whose ex? What was it? It was something so ridiculous.
Like, the guy in L.A. The $15 wage guy, of getting his name.
Oh, Sandberg.
Sandberg. That's it. That's right. Yeah, good call.
Joe Sandberg's girlfriend is Brian Seltzer's ex.
Oh, Jay, you with your commentary. It's getting a little feisty around these parts. Still a little early. Still a little early.
So it shouldn't be, and it's not a little early for the states that they should have already called.
Remember, they get listen.
That's true. They need to prolong it as long as possible so that it helps their ratings.
So I guess they may have started counting again, but Trump has added 0.2% back into his column in that state. North Carolina, again, is now frozen at 84%. Trump with a 2.5-point lead. Trump holding just under a 3-point lead at 60% reporting in Pennsylvania. Again,
right now, Trump is holding the lead in the swing states. Look at them.
Kamala has a 1.5-point lead in Virginia that is trending in her direction.
What's Michigan right now?
Michigan is
it's only 24% reporting.
Yeah, still too early. Wisconsin is at 56. Trump is still holding a 1.3% lead. Minnesota, still way too early. Arizona, Trump is ahead by a couple thousand votes, but it doesn't matter. It's still too early. I believe at 11 o'clock. Is it 11? Yeah, 11. So 11 o'clock. Nevada has not called any of their results yet. California, Oregon,
we don't need them to call
Washington.
Their results.
Yeah, that's all.
None of those states needs. We don't need those 4 states. We know how they're going to vote.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. We know those points go to. It matters that their votes matter, but we already are counting those as her votes. So it's not changing the equation.
Tony, thank you for being a member for 10 months. I'm going to give you a choice. So you tell me who you want. You want Bill, you want Bernie, you want Trump. Gotta ask. You let us know. Appreciate you being here.
If my opinion matters at all,
no, it doesn't.
Bernie is the least offensive.
Well, Bernie won his re-election in Vermont.
I'm annoyed with him, but I don't find him disgusting and lechy.
Listen, I'm still appreciative that Bernie is there.
I am too. I mean, I'm appreciative for everything Bernie did, but again, as a person, he's the only one of those 3 that doesn't make my skin crawl.
No, he actually can.
Like I would actually be comfortable sitting at a table with Bernie. And I wouldn't feel like he was disgusting and lechy.
Not only that, but Bernie is also somebody who...
I mean, he's probably cranky.
He is. But that's the difference between somebody like Bernie and somebody like AOC. AOC is extremely politically ambitious. She's also got her whole life ahead of her. Bernie's life is in the twilight years now. So it's a completely different way of looking at things. I understand that. But at some point, I can't do Don Rickles. I've actually never tried, although I find him very funny.
That's not good odds. What are they calling it in Vegas? It's not looking good.
Listen, the only thing that really matters when it comes down to it is, it's almost like saying like Vegas. We're not actually calling it from where Vegas stands, because that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is who is actually counting the votes in the states that can still swing it in Kamala's direction. And those are always in the big cityscapes. That's where it happens. Now, do they have enough? Don't know. Okay, so Jen, you're going to be visited by somebody who you actually would like.
I know. I think he took pity on me. Thank you, Tony D, for taking pity on me and making me not have to go take like a bath.
Clearly likes this show, I suppose.
No, it's good.
I suppose everybody
Bernie,
hears
like again, regardless of the politics, he doesn't disgust me as a human being. Let's say that.
I didn't think that I would be able to get here this evening
from
all the way up in Vermont, but you take one of those.
Well, at least your state's already counted.
Well, my state's already counted, but listen, I took a charter flight and I sat in coach. I do not ever sit in first class, and I do not get on.
I appreciate that.
I do care about the environment as much as I can. Have you seen Vermont? It's a beautiful state.
Vermont is beautiful.
Tony, we want to appreciate you, the fact that you've been here for exactly 10 months. That is a long time to be supporting such an incredibly grassroots podcast.
It is. But we appreciate it very much.
Well, we do appreciate it.
And anybody who's new, they should join too.
If you are here and this is your first time here, we want to make sure that you become a member of this wonderful little podcast. It's small but mighty, as Jen likes to say, but it is very important, especially after tonight. We have to continue transforming politics into service. The way you could do that is by going to this website. Jen, I'm not very technologically savvy, but I think I can figure this out for you. If I go here,
these are the key races right now. Do you see it?
Oh, I can see it. Those are also key. It doesn't look too good.
No.
But make sure you go to patreon.com right there, /generational change. As little as $5.
Guys, help us out on Patreon. It's really helpful. It helps us pay.
Do you know what costs $5? If you just look, and I tell the story all the time. You know, if you actually go north of the border into Canada from Burlington, where I live, you can get your prescription drugs for $5.
I know.
Isn't that amazing?
Why? Well, we don't have that protection here.
We don't have that protection, and it's really terrible. And unfortunately,
because people like your friend Joe,
my good friend Joe, is about to retire. Can we give him a break?
Because Kamala is going to be better on that, right? She's going to fight for us so much more with Big Pharma.
Listen, I think if Kamala somehow pulls it out, I'm going to do everything I can to sit down with her, have a conversation, and let her know that we must have universal health care, reproductive freedom. I don't know how we're going to codify Roe v. Wade. Probably not going to happen.
Well, there's nothing we can do to help Florida with that. We're screwed down here.
Well, look, you know, in the state of Florida, they do not apparently care enough about women's reproductive. Oh, no, actually, they do. Didn't the majority vote for it?
Yes.
The majority voted.
But that's it. Majority of people also voted to require us to have 60%. So
that is just
the majority is not so bright.
Listen, one of the best things that will come out of this evening is the fact that I am winning re-election very easily in the great state of Vermont.
Was that ever questioned?
It was probably not in question, but you never take anything for granted. Did you know that when I won the race for mayor of Burlington back in 1981, do you know how many votes I won by? I won by 10 votes.
That's amazing.
That's it.
But there's not that many people. It's not that many people there, though.
There's not that many people. And you know when I won at the same time that Ronald Reagan was elected president of the United States.
Do you have any idea why it's taking New Hampshire so long to count when your votes are in? Aren't you guys, it's the same size, you're right near each other. How complicated could it be?
Listen, not every state is efficient as
I think New Hampshire is fairly efficient. And I like New Hampshire. They've got that don't tread on me attitude. There's a lot of libertarians there, good people.
I really like the state of New Hampshire. And they were very good to me when I ran for president. I won the New Hampshire primary both times. And in a better world, I probably would have made a much better president.
I know.
It is what it is.
You definitely would have made a better president.
But if you feel the need to actually contribute to the good nature of this political world that is crumbling in front of us all the time,
it's crumbling.
Be in your best interest to support generational change at patreon.com/generational change.
Yeah, for as little as $5 a month. Guys, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. That really does help. And if you're watching on anything that isn't YouTube, please come watch on YouTube. That helps us the most.
The good news is that I am going back to the U.S. Senate, God willing, for another 6 years, and then I'll be done.
You're getting a little old.
I'm getting a little long.
You're getting a little old, Bernie.
But we're still holding on for a political revolution. And if Trump wins again, I'm going to have to resist him. How that is, I'm not really sure because I didn't really do much of that in the past. But we're going to try. We're going to try really hard, I promise. And support the show. Thanks for checking it. Appreciate it.
He is definitely the least offensive of your characters.
Now, if only, and Henry's right, the rotting corpse of Milhouse Nixon would have definitely been better.
And very to the left of where these Democrats are. To the left. The fact that these Democrats are to the right of Ronald Reagan is like
Josh Hawley.
But you just got to vote blue one more time. Just one more time. This is an existential problem. We're having an existential threat. Trump is an existential threat to democracy. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Et tu, Mark Ruffalo? Ugh. I was so sad. Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it?
Love you, Teresa. Now, if you want me to do an impression that you're thinking of, please let me know.
Did you see the Mark Ruffalo clip where he basically told everyone to get in line and not vote for
I didn't know that he did a clip. I know that he did.
Yes. No, there was a clip. There was a video clip of him explaining. There was also one from Cynthia Nixon. Very disappointing.
Colin, if you are there, I know you're busy with Jordan and Tina right now.
Yeah, no, Jordan.
If you happen to have a clip of Mark Ruffalo and Cynthia Nixon. But again,
the Cynthia Nixon one wasn't, first of all, and her thing was more, which is even more frustrating, was talking about the fact that because they have the Working Families Party, she could support that party while still voting for Kamala Harris. Like, she had some rationalization that involved the fact that Kamala is running under the Working Families Party as well as the Democratic Party in New York, which to me then means, why would you not vote third party in New York? And voting for the Working Families Party does not constitute voting third party if they're running the same candidate. I don't understand.
Look, we are going to deal with this reality if it actually happens.
But see, and that's what I think too.
So the problem that we have to remind ourselves of, and this is one of the things that's difficult to comprehend,
and
at
it
this
won't
moment,
be Kamala doing it.
but
She's just the puppet.
You actually have one of the most powerful Democrats in all of Congress, Jamie Raskin, came out and said, we will not certify the results even if Trump wins.
And yet they're saying January 6th is an insurrection.
If Trump even made a comment even close to that,
that's so crazy.
Could you imagine the shitstorm that would follow?
And they're constantly about the January 6th insurrection, and those people don't respect the Constitution. Trump wants to get rid of the Constitution. They don't want to play. And he's saying we won't certify but you know what? When it's the landslide that I think it's going to be, how are they going to get away with not certifying it? How can they do
well, they really are risking a civil war if that's the direction
I just don't see how they can really do that. Because if you think that January 6th was an insurrection, he wins the popular vote and clearly wins, and the Democrats don't certify it, you ain't seen a revolution yet. And let me tell you something, people, the blue people out there, the red people will kick your ass.
Rick Scott,
Rick
Scott with 96% reporting has a 13-point lead on Debbie McCursill-Powell. Now,
not as bad as the Val Demings, Marco Rubio, like I predicted. So kudos to her for closing that gap.
Well, so then what level of hate vote is out there against Rick Scott?
A lot.
Question.
A lot.
That's a hate vote. That's all that is. Because Rick Scott,
He's
only
evil.
Politician in the state of Florida that's worse than Debbie Wasserman Schultz is Rick Scott.
He's evil.
That's it. Like, have you seen those eyes?
He's Voldemort. So the fact that, right. So that's why.
Now, the scary thing with Rick Scott is that regardless of Trump or Harris winning, it looks almost assured right now that the GOP is going to take the Senate. And if that happens, Rick Scott is going to make a play to be Senate Majority Leader.
Oh, that's bad.
That's bad.
That's bad.
Well, thank you, Debbie Wasserman Schultz and dumbass Democrats, for protecting that witch vile human being. Because Rick Scott, if you actually had a structure, remember, Rick Scott has been able to skate twice by a point, once against Charlie Crist and once against Bill Nelson, and you had everything in your favor to take him out, and you couldn't do it.
No.
Why not?
Well, and what was the spending? Like, because when we look back at like how much money Val Deming spent versus Marco Rubio and still lost by like 20 points.
Yeah, but they don't know how to spend their money.
No, that's what I'm saying. But it just shows how stupid they are in their management. So
Here's
like how much money did Debbie McCursill-Powell spend versus how much did she lose by?
So if it wasn't so much as, and again, 90% reporting Trump is holding a 3-point lead. They finally started counting again. North Carolina, Trump holds a 3-point lead with 86% reporting. Pennsylvania, 66% reporting. Trump has a 2.5-point
Michigan.
lead. Michigan, Trump is up by 4 points, but only 27% reporting. Wisconsin, Trump is holding a 2-point lead with 59% reporting. Arizona, Trump holding a 0.2% lead with 50%.
So basically, at the moment, he's leading every single swing state. At this moment, he is leading in every single swing state.
Every one of them. Oh, Nevada hasn't started counting yet. I don't know what that is.
I don't know how much. All right, forget Nevada. If the rest of them, like, the truth is, if everything else goes, Nevada won't matter any more than California will if everything else already turns red. So that's the truth. Unfortunately, for the people on the West Coast, it kind of does suck for you that the president gets called before some of you have even voted. That does. That kind of sucks. Move closer to the Eastern Standard Time. That's all I could tell you. Move closer to the international date line, and your votes will get counted first.
It is very telling, though, that Florida becomes the first state that doesn't codify women's reproductive freedom.
It doesn't surprise me, but how many states have the 60% threshold?
That's probably true. But, in a lot of states, they did pass at a 60% threshold, which is just Florida is what it is. It is what it is.
And I honestly, good. I hope it discourages people from moving.
The other problem that you have to remember in Florida.
Don't move here.
And, even though the panhandle is very conservative, the very old part of Florida that is extremely conservative is in the central part of the state. The villages, the suburbs outside of Orlando.
Yet they're so conservative, and yet they're like swingers with colored loofahs indicating what sex acts those
doesn't
seniors
matter,
will do.
but they're still.
So in other words, they can swing from chandeliers and have orgies, but I can't have rights to my lady parts.
No, the problem with them specifically is that they can get an abortion. The average person is not allowed. Us rich, wealthy,
Well,
affluent,
that's been the case for a
bougie
long time,
people?
but even now, we're not able to either.
Yeah, right. Well,
So, again, that's not, look, I don't have a horse in that race anymore, fortunately. But people, if you've got daughters, do not come here.
I cannot believe that Trump has a 6 million vote lead in the popular vote. That's amazing.
You don't ever listen to me.
I do listen.
I've been calling this for how long?
You're pretty politically
And
savvy.
I will say this, that when Kamala came out of the once she first got the nomination, once they first handed it over to her and she had that bump or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, she's coming in strong. I'm like, she will lose points every single time she opens her mouth. She will go down every single day and she will lose handedly. That was my prediction from the very beginning of putting her in the race. And how did I know that? Because she didn't win a single primary vote when she did run in a primary. People don't like her. And they certainly don't like having somebody cram down their throat that they didn't even have say so about.
Are you a racist, sexist bigot?
If that's what makes people happy to say, fine.
Hey, you know what? At least in the GOP, people don't get called those things. And don't think for a second that that's not attractive to a lot of people.
And
they don't want to deal with that type of bullshit.
And the problem is this, and I honestly, I don't care if people want to call me that. I really don't care. You can call me whatever.
I don't care. And here's an even better example. Do you really think if Trump wins again, that all of a sudden the Democrats are now going to endorse ranked choice voting? What, nuts?
They're still not going to do anything about it, but they'll bleed more people. See, my goal.
I think win or lose, they're going to bleed.
I do
more
too.
People.
They're win or lose, they're going to become a dinosaur. My goal, my hope is that the Zionist state and the Democratic Party both go away within a very short period of time. Like, that's what I would like to see happen. And the Democratic Party is definitely going to have their asses handed to them.
Yeah, it's not.
Please move, neoliberals.
The fact that Ted Cruz, and they put money into this race. They put money behind Colin Allred. And right now, with 3/4 of the vote counted, Ted Cruz has a just under 10-point lead. He is leading by
can't beat Ted Cruz.
He is leading by almost 900,000 votes.
I will say this, despite how much I dislike Rick Scott, and I do really he's disgusting human being.
Not?
Right. But my understanding from people in DC is that Ted Cruz is hands down the least liked senator amongst the senators.
Well, because
amongst their own, meaning that there is a snake like Rick Scott that dislikes Ted Cruz. Imagine, and they can't beat Ted Cruz.
And you know what that also says about Ted Cruz more than anything else. You know why they hate him? Because if the senators hate him, that means that he is probably the biggest, no pun intended, gossip queen in the entire delegation.
That's offensive.
He probably goes around and
don't compare like people like that to Ted Cruz. They didn't do anything to deserve
you hear
that.
What this person said about so and so.
He's a bitch.
He does.
He's such a bitch.
You know he does that.
I know. And the fact that he got in line behind Trump after Trump called his wife ugly and said his father assassinated Kennedy, and he got in line with him anyway. It didn't even matter. Talk about beta.
The better
He's
one.
Beta.
No, but the better one was when he was when Romney went and had dinner with him, and then they got that photo op of Romney was talking shit about him nonstop, and then the next thing you know, he wins the nomination. And he's sitting with Trump, and Trump has this big grin on his face.
It's so ridiculous.
And Romney's got this smirk of like,
oh my God, it's so ridiculous. Point being, if you can't get rid of somebody like Ted Cruz, stop putting money into that race in that state. Give it up. Stop putting money into that race in that state. It doesn't make sense. Now, I knew Beto had no chance of winning the minute that he.
You mean Robert Francis O'Rourke? No, you notice how you don't hear anything. It's some people really
didn't. We say that day? I said it that day. This is the end of his political career.
They have gone into the dust. The second he went on that stage and said, "We're going to take your gun," it's like, "Oh, goodbye."
That was it. He stood up in that restaurant.
He did that in Texas.
That's the thing. He told people in Texas he was going to take their guns. I said that's the end of his political. In fact, we have that. We have a show where we talked about it. I actually have video evidence that we said that he will cease to exist.
Oh, of course.
Tell people in Texas you're going to take their guns.
And if you want the ultimate nail in the proverbial coffin that has now officially given the U.S. Senate to the GOP, Sherrod Brown has been knocked out in Ohio. Thanks a lot, Democrats.
Oh, California and Washington have been called. There you go.
But the audacity of you guys, and part of that reason, Sherrod Brown, as we've said, is one of the truly good senators that we have.
I mean, and we say that's a very loose term. Again, it's a low bar. It's a low bar.
But he actually fights for labor. He's one of the very few that do.
Well, look, and then you have people, but then you had O'Brien speaking at and again, I don't fault that. I think they should be talking to everybody. What?
Nice Luger.
Who had a Luger?
O'Brien.
Oh.
Sorry, I come
Murphy and O'Brien.
Come on.
Okay, so
are you going to open with that?
And then the Jews used the blacks. It's a Seinfeld reference, guys, for Murphy and O'Brien. But I mean, I just think that it was very clear that labor is showing that it will go both ways. And so he might be good to labor in Ohio, but the truth is Vance was just recently elected there and was fairly popular. Vance won pretty handedly in Ohio over Ryan.
He did. The GOP has picked up 2 seats in the House. The Democrats have lost 3 seats.
How does that work?
I don't know.
There's an independent somewhere. Is there an independent out there somewhere? Who's others?
The only one we really care about is whether or not we've got any type of.
But look at that. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so let's see if we can hone in on this. I think we might be able to.
No, don't do that. We'll end up seeing like Richie Torres. I don't need to.
Well, that's what we're trying to find out.
I don't want to see that.
You don't want to know what the score is?
I don't. I find him so gross. I honestly, that is my least favorite.
Guys, somebody drop in the chat
if they can get the numbers on Richie Torres and Jose Vega.
I just want to know that Jose got to like 20%. I just want to know.
Let's see the number. If somebody can find us the numbers on. Thanks, Chip.
Google reports that Jill Stein has only foot. And again, this is all about the financial infrastructure. When you're talking about billions of dollars and the Green Party's financial infrastructure is only how much?
It's
a few
tiny, which is why, FYI, people, that they just come out every few years and then they have to spend most of their money and their infrastructure fighting legal battles to be able to be on ballots that the Democratic Party works night and day to keep them off of. I know we're having
Harachino, you have no idea.
You have no idea. We're having an infestation problem here. I want to
careful with that word.
No, I am not going to be careful with that word. Let me explain to you people. Okay. After what happened in World War II, and you had a whole bunch of Nazis and Nazi sympathizers fleeing and going to places like Argentina and going to places in South America. We have mass amounts of Israelis, and I don't care what anybody says. The majority of Israelis are okay, if not enthusiastic, about what is going on in Gaza and the occupied territories. Most of them are on board with that. So if we're seeing this huge influx of Israelis, that means to me that genocidal people are being allowed in this country. And you're talking shit about Haitians? Haitians aren't coming here. They're not genocidal. Why are you worried about Haitians? You've got Israelis coming here. These are people that openly supported genocide. And we're just rolling out the red carpet. Why? Because they're white and they have money.
Ray J, yes. So Jen, Bibi fired his defense administrator.
Doesn't surprise me. He's been having the internal battles that have been going on over there between him, the IDF, the leaders, the cabinet, whatever. Yeah. They're in a disaster. They're imploding big time over there. But he is wanting to continue all these battles and all these fronts. And the IDF and the leadership of the IDF, who some of them obviously probably have some, decent military strategical experience. Some of the people at the top there have said, we can't do this. We shouldn't be doing this. We can't afford to do this. We don't have the infrastructure to do this. And so he fired him because he didn't get the answer he wanted. So no, that doesn't surprise me. But for people, seriously, if you don't want to be around Zionist genocidal people, stay away from South Florida. They are coming here in droves. I want to tell you that I know that, and Colonel Wilkerson had said this on a show I was watching, close to a million Israelis have left that country since October 7th.
close to 1 million. Now, a lot of them might be intending to go back. I don't know, I don't know, but close to 1 million people have left Israel. Bunch of them probably went to Europe. There's a bunch hanging out in Cyprus. Who knows where they're going? But let me tell you, make no mistake, a whole shit ton of them are coming to Florida. And that is what I call an infestation. And I do not care. You believe in genocide, you're an infestation. And I'm disgusted.
The New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump has an 89% chance of winning the presidency as it stands right now, and he is steadily holding a 6.1 million vote lead over Kamala Harris. So I think at this point, it's probably fairly safe to, I mean, again.
Well, where's her path?
It's not a question of her path.
It is.
Well,
that's how
they
look at it. That's what Tim Russert looked at it.
This is what I'm saying in terms of the popular vote. She's not going to make up 6 million votes in California. That's not going to happen. So how many is she going to make up? Is she going to make up 4 million votes? I mean, even then, that might be a stretch. But that still leaves another 2 million votes out there.
And again, we're still only he's going to keep getting further and further ahead. That's my prediction. I've been saying this for months. I did not see any chance how she could win. I didn't. I don't understand how someone who's never won a vote and nobody likes can then do better than somebody who was more popular did during a pandemic. Like, it just, again, I'm a person of reason. I don't see how she can do it. I just don't. I didn't see it months ago. I didn't see it when she ran in 20 and Tulsi took her out, which was glorious.
No, I'm not disputing that. I do think that right now, a lot of, and let's see if there's been any, no, again, they still have frozen the fucking count.
They have to know.
This is as I've said, this is where people get conspiratorial, and Trump has opened up his lead again to almost 3 points in North Carolina. It had swung down to 2. Now it's almost up to 3, 88% reporting. As we've said, people get very conspiratorial because he is not wanted in this system.
But let me say, I don't find that conspiratorial.
No, it's not conspiratorial. Well, they'll say it's conspiratorial.
No. But no.
That's all I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is that even there's no reason to even say it. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. I don't trust the system. Nobody trusts the system. We know that there's flaws. We know that it sucks. We know that there is very malintended people and bad actors.
Trump is now opened up his lead in Wisconsin. He holds a 3-point lead with 63% reporting. He's up by almost 63,000 votes. That is actually a pretty decent lead for Wisconsin right now at this point in the count. And as I said, it really just comes down to what does the count look like in Madison and Milwaukee? And here's the thing about Milwaukee. How do you know that's even safe anymore? Because the black male vote has been trending in a dangerous direction for Donald Trump.
Stop saying dangerous.
Well, for the Democrats.
Oh, like the Democrats find it dangerous.
Yes,
I think that according to people that I have spoken to in the Black community, it's liberating for them to not be feeling like they're beholden to the Democratic Party who's done nothing for them.
Part of the reason they haven't called the race in New Hampshire is because it's actually probably a lot closer than people think. Right now, Harris holds a 4.5 point
I was
lead.
joking about New Hampshire just being that it's so small. How could it possibly take that long to count the votes in New Hampshire?
Well, here's the thing about New Hampshire that you have to remember. New Hampshire is, it's not only, I do believe that they count by hand in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is one of the best Democratic states in the country, meaning that almost everybody participates.
Oh, they have really high voter turnout.
Exceptionally high.
There's only 10 people there, of course.
It's not true. They have a few million people in New Hampshire, but the point is that it's
so pretty there.
It's such a beautiful state, and it's an active state, and people care about politics there.
I like New
and that's
Hampshire.
part of the reason why they were not having it when they were basically saying, oh, yeah, totally. We don't care about the primary process. Yes,
they do. Yes, they do. And New Hampshire, I really like states that lean libertarian.
I do too.
I like that. The people in New Hampshire are very live and let live.
Very much so.
They are not into big government. They're not into legislating morality. They are very live and let live.
100%.
Put up what Chip said.
Thanks, Chip. Wilkerson, Ritter, Alistair Crock, Matt Ho, Ray McGovern, and others are all predicting the end of Israel as we know it.
Yes.
Just a question of when.
And you can add me to that list because I've said that too. And at the rate they're going, it's exponential. Like I feel like every day they're making that happen faster, which that I am appreciative of, at the expense of the Palestinian people, which is just like honestly, I'm removed from it in the sense that I don't have family in Gaza. I'm not personally having that. And yet this has changed my life. This has affected me at a level that I'm never getting over this.
MX Diva, I will say this. I don't know if it's the end of the world as we know it, but if you feel fine, that's okay.
You know it's the song.
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Do you know who
alluding to.
sings it?
R.E.M.
Okay. Just checking.
Yes. And listen, I hope if Trump wins that they fucking quit. Just please go away.
Go away.
Go away.
And guys, honestly, you know, I always do tout Tim Black because he is one of my favorites that I watch. He's probably live now too, and I loved him. Yeah, freedom is gross. And his bit that he did last night about Joe Scarborough was
hilarious.
So entertaining.
I can only imagine.
He had some choice words about Joe and Mika.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not as much as he has choice words for people like Kamala.
Yeah. One of the trends that is actually probably not good for Kamala at this point is Dave McCormick has opened up a 2-point lead over incumbent Senator Bob Casey. This could be really, really ugly before this is all said and done.
I will feel so right. And you know what? Yeah, that will feel kind of good. Actually, it will. Because we're screwed either way. Feel like, I'm not getting anything that I want. If we were living in my world, Bernie would have been president in 2016. So none of this is what I want.
If there is one Senate race that I hope that the GOP wins and flips is Mike Rogers beating Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan.
I hope that
you want to put a fucking CIA spook into the U.S. Senate? Fuck you and the horse you rode in on. You could have had Hill Harper.
I know. And they went with this. They went with this.
The whole infrastructure. And Hill Harper still got like 35% of the vote in the primary.
He was a great candidate.
And they put everything behind Alyssa Slotkin because that's how it is in the Democratic Party.
That makes me want her to lose.
There is nothing democratic about the party. When they decide who they're going with, that is it.
She's also a Zion Nazi, I believe.
You may be right about that. I don't know if she's big a Zion Nazi as Dana Nessel is.
To me, the levels are irrelevant anymore. I don't care. There's either you are or not a Zion Nazi. I am done. There's no gray area. I am done. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to talk to them. Anybody who knows me and is in my life, and if you are with that, please just don't reach out to me ever again. I really don't want to have to vet people. I don't want to have to ask everybody that I know. So just if you know me and you know that you're with Israel, just please just go. I cannot.
Why has the vote stopped being counted in Arizona?
Again.
Another example of the type of stuff where people
because there's shenanigans. There's bullshit going on. And they also have to hold back depending on where they need to make adjustments. You gotta need a little nip here, a little tuck there. You can't have it look, it's like professional wrestling. You can't have it look too good in one direction. Like you got to make it look like a good thing. That's why they got to hold back because they know. Honestly,
the other problem you also have to remember is that when you're dealing with corporate media, which is a dying industry, they want to keep eyeballs on TV for as much ratings that they can get. That's what it's all
like
about.
Sweeps,
of course. Oh,
the fact that our presidential elections and the result of that is treated no different from network sweeps and all of that stuff. And it's just meant for like getting we are in the Hunger Games. This is the Hunger Games. I cannot, it is so absurd to me that is how it goes. It just is silly. I feel like, honestly, we need Stanley Tucci to be doing. You never saw the Hunger Games, did you?
I haven't, but maybe it's time for me to watch it.
Can I please tell you how much I love Stanley Tucci? So
imagine.
I love him. So the character, everybody who knows the Hunger Games, like I honestly feel like Stanley Tucci in his character for the Hunger Games, I forget what the character's name was. It was something ostentatious, like ridiculous. But that character is who should be narrating our elections, like should be with the dry erase board. That's how absurd this is.
Well, it is pretty,
and I do want the Democrats to lose very badly everywhere.
So I know, could I play it?
Please don't. Wait. Are you talking about what I think you're talking about?
Bill.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the reason I want to play this clip of Bill Maher.
Than the other thing you
no, I wasn't going to talk about that. But here's the one thing that I will mention, which I think is important here. Now, clearly,
I just don't want to be one of the wait before you start. I don't want to be one of those channels where you're known as the guy who just all he does is rips on Bill Maher.
No, not at all.
You know, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I hate giving him airtime.
Okay, so when
North Carolina's red.
So North Carolina just got called for Donald Trump. So there goes the first swing state, and it is in the Trump column, holding a 6 percentage point lead. You know what I'm interested? What happened with the governor's race there? Okay, so not a surprise. Josh Stein beat the piss out of Mark Robinson.
Oh, wow.
And here's where you know.
And Trump's still winning North Carolina.
This is where you know that this country truly is independent at its core. They're smart enough to say, we have no interest in this shitbag for our governor, but we want Trump as our president. That really shows you.
And no, and not just that, but by the amount.
Oh, yeah.
The amount.
A wipeout, a 15-point wipeout, and Trump still wins North Carolina. So
what does that say?
Says a lot.
It says a lot about not just the Democratic Party nationally. It really says a lot about Kamala.
Part of the reason why these things are also not getting called as quickly as they're getting called.
They need us on the edge of our seats.
Because unfortunately, I hate to say this, he is probably destroying her. This is such a wipeout that they can't even produce it. They don't want to say that this guy's going to win 30 states.
I'm better than Nate Silver.
Well, no, Nate Silver was the one guy who's really saying, I don't know what the fuck you're looking at. This entire map could actually be a blowout, and you're pretending like it isn't happening.
I've been saying that for months too. So I'm just saying, and I believe that. Again, I believe her following is contrived. I believe.
Hey, how's that K-Hive working out for you?
Again, I don't think it's real people.
Of all the things that we seriously hope will die,
it's the K-Hive. Oh, please go
away.
Well, and on the best thing, other than people moving, that would be very good for me. Other than that, Kamala Harris will disappear into oblivion. We'll never hear from her again.
Donald James, thank you for checking in.
And that is a blessing.
Well, if considering how she's going to likely lose at this point, she will be old news. And you could quote me on this. She will be old news before Trump is sworn in on January 20th.
No one will talk about her again.
It will never be talked about.
No one will ever talk about her again. Tim Walz, probably. Like, he has a little bit of like a potential future in some stuff, and he actually is a governor. I mean, it's like,
Mommy and Daddy need to argue some more about whether or not the belt is a reasonable option for punishment. Slick, you're right. Again, how do you want to take it? It's like you said. Do you want death by 1,000 paper cuts, or do you want a straight nosedive?
See, that's what I'm saying. We're on Kamala Harris and the Clintons is a slow escalator ride to hell. Trump is the free fall. And I'm like, let's just get it over with.
Stop pretending like the current system can be salvaged. It can't.
Just let's go.
And
let's just go.
And I'm a capitalist. I'm a free market. I believe in the free market.
I don't.
But I know that it's broken. And you can't deny that it's broken.
I think it's just wrong. I think it's just wrong. I think it's inherently wrong.
They are still not calling a handful of Senate seats, but that is yet to be determined. But the path to the presidency with Donald Trump right now could be over within the hour.
Yeah.
Within the hour, it could be over.
What's going on in Arizona? They're still at 50%.
Honestly, at this point, 2 states, guys. Pennsylvania, Georgia. He wins those 2.
It's over.
He's the president. So that... Let me do the math just to be absolutely certain.
I missed Tim Russer. He was the best.
19, that's 35, and Alaska puts him at 268.
No, but you're looking at, he's got Georgia. He's going to get.
He doesn't have anything yet.
No,
I mean, it's trending.
I think
Trump is opening up a lead in Michigan, which I hope he fucking destroys her in Michigan.
That's what I want.
That's what I want.
And I want, you know what? I'm hoping that the Dearborn votes haven't come in yet. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. Good luck there. No. I love their mayor. I want him to run.
If the New York Times says that he's a 90, so Kamala is obviously closing on the popular vote, and that's going to happen because California is going to get counted. But I don't see how at this point
she's not catching up anywhere near enough.
I don't see at this point how he doesn't win the popular vote. I don't see it.
No, he's over 5 million votes up on her.
Yeah.
And where would those come from? How could she catch up on that?
It's true. That's a good point. So what we want to play for you guys.
Well, no, it's what he wants to play, and I'm willing to tolerate because apparently it's good for clicks. Yes.
Yeah. So, David, what I have espoused many times before as it relates to free market capitalism is I believe in a hybrid system. I believe
that's not capitalism.
Well, okay, fine. I believe in a free market that splices capitalism with socialism.
That's not capitalism.
Okay, so then it's what do you?
That's like Jews for
hybrid system?
Jesus. That's not real. That's
Hybrid
not
system.
existent. That's not a thing.
Okay.
That's like Jews for Jesus. It's an oxymoron.
Listen, a lot of people are reveling in the idea that not only is it trending in the direction that Kamala is going to lose, but it's trending in the direction.
Is the chat getting bad dirty or good dirty?
Well, who knows?
I'm good with good dirty.
And Esme, this is why I don't believe in in just a straight capitalist
He doesn't
system.
understand. He doesn't understand.
Okay.
He doesn't understand, clearly. That's, again, like you're saying, it's like I'm Jewish, but I take Christ as my savior.
Well, here's the problem, again, we have a mix of conservatives to progressives and everything in between. One of our conservatives, capitalism is literally freedom and prosperity for everyone who wants to pay. You can't do that.
This is true. We've not experienced that because we give welfare to the corporations. We give welfare to the rich. We protect that. So we don't have capitalism.
And her name is Jen.
Gottlieb. I know. Here's the thing. I believe that there was Jesus.
Maybe.
Does that count? Well, I mean, why not?
He didn't look like you and I.
No.
I know that that's blasphemy to say that, but
all right. I'm just saying it's a concept to me that if somebody takes Christ as their savior, to me, that by definition makes you Christian, because the definition of a Christian to me is somebody who takes Christ as their savior. So if you take Christ as your savior, then you're a Christian. So how can you be Jewish and take Christ as your savior? I'm just saying. And then there's the people say, well, but I'm culturally and heritagely Jewish. Well, that's not a thing. I'm culturally and heritagely always been an atheist. So, but my family is Jewish, and I don't get it.
I think of all the people that completely embodies exactly what we've been talking about pertaining to who is the ultimate neoliberal that supposedly speaks for the Democratic Party establishment.
Oh,
Bill Maher is definitely up
so
there.
elitist.
And so
he's horrible now.
He
wants you to hear this. I haven't heard it, so I know I'm going to be disgusted.
Yeah. And as we close, hopefully in on an end to this election within the next hour.
I'm hungry.
This is what Bill Maher had to say on Friday night about this election. This will crystallize everything for everybody who is sick and tired of elitist liberal people.
On the Friday before Election Day, and at least one of my predictions was right on the money. It's tied, as it always is. That's just who this country is now. Two tribes united by a history, but maybe not a future. I'm sticking with my other prediction that Harris is going to win, but I can't say I'm not nervous that the election is in the hands of a small cohort of undecided voters, those curious few bisexuals of the political world.
That's actually a good line.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
I doubt he wrote it.
No, he doesn't write it.
Oh, everybody loves to mock, but I see it as more of a personality thing. I call them the Christmas Eve shoppers of politics. So let me have a word with them.
I also don't believe anyone's undecided.
Hi, Christmas Eve voter. Look, you obviously don't like Trump, or you'd be in that camp already, but you're still torn. And I'm the guy who keeps saying, I get why. You wanted more reassurance that the Democrat isn't going to go along with every aggressively anti-common sense idea that comes out of the woke mind virus, which, yes, is a thing. And if she loses, that will be mainly why.
Nut job.
And part of that mind virus is progressive phobia, Steven Pinker's term for the liberal fear of ever admitting when things are actually good. As The Economist puts it about America today, an economy with an unemployment rate of 4% and a per-person GDP of $85,000.
Does this man understand averages?
No.
Because he wears glasses like he's a smart guy. You know, that's the thing. Bill Maher's a smart guy.
Why is glasses associated with smart people when it really only has to do with people with poor vision? I don't understand the connection.
Well, here's the thing. An economy with an unemployment rate of 4%. Yes, people are unemployed or underemployed, and in many cases, they have stopped looking for jobs because none of them can pay a living wage. They still have to be on welfare at the same time, or they have several jobs. And a per person GDP of 85,000. Well, let's see, Bill. If somebody's making $35,000 a year, what does the other person have to make in order for the average to be 85,000? Well, that other person is going to have to make, let me do the math right in my head, $140,000. Yeah, $140,000 a year. I think that's right.
Don't look at me. I've got challenges. I am mathematically challenged. I don't want to think about it.
$145,000 a year. Now, does that sound like a fair system when we have that big of a gap? Yeah, no, he really hasn't worked a day in his life. I highly doubt that.
He doesn't write his own stuff, especially that last line. It was good.
Now you expand this out many multiples further, and you can see why the economic gap is so insane. When you consider that over 50% of this country can't afford a hospital emergency, half this country cannot actually afford to pay rent. They're literally stringing themselves along.
But notice the correlation between somebody who has no concept of that and is also predicting that Harris wins.
Yeah.
That is a completely out of touch person. And that's why when I talk to people like that, I know like in my peer group and people like whatever, and they feel very comfortable saying that somebody like Kamala is going to win because they have never been outside of their little bubble. It's if you spend any amount of time with working people, it's really not hard to see the writing on the wall.
No.
I've been noticing it for a few years now, very, very specifically. And again, yes, I live in Florida, but we live in Broward County. Broward's the bluest county in Florida. So if I'm noticing those things here, it's only going to be more so in other places. Like he's just so out of touch.
Dollars does not have to be made great again. It is great.
Cheers.
The phrase I hear so much that makes me just want to unalive myself is, how's she going to help me? Like the president is your personal genie.
This is a rich man telling you that the commander-in-chief doesn't need to help you. She just needs to sit on a throne. I mean, that is what he's saying.
Well, and this is somebody who was coronated. She didn't win a single primary vote. So I think, and so when you see those like, who was that woman who was on that other panel where she's like, does it really matter? But people don't really care if they vote in the primary.
The Upper West Side Jewish liberal.
Right.
It's
that mindset, same as him. Like
right.
To them, it's perfectly fine that she was coronated because of course she's better than him.
Why do you care about a primary?
Do they really care? Do people care?
This is who has taken over the party. This isn't the party of labor.
No.
And it hasn't been for a long time.
Look at him.
Party of the Clintons.
Actually, the freeze frame on him and her is both really very good.
We haven't even gotten to it yet, but I'm going to, yes, that is it's like,
and she's like,
yeah.
They're both, it's perfect freeze frame on them.
Really is. I didn't intend to do it.
I know, but it's good.
It's Kamala, not Kazam. And it's a government, not an insurance company. I don't know if Kamala worked at McDonald's, but she's not Flo from Progressive. You should be voting Harris because of the economy. But undecideds don't get that message because Democrats can't make the words, things aren't so bad, ever come out of their mouths, lest someone somewhere accuse them of not caring enough about people who are struggling. But even in a good economy, some segment of society will always struggle with money, mostly liberal arts majors.
I want to punch him.
He really
I want to punch him so badly.
Asshole.
Oh my God, what an elitist piece of shit. So not, and again, I understand the reference to like, I know. Right,
what is it supposed to be there?
To
promote the general welfare.
Police us and make sure that we're all not speaking our minds. That to me, that whole, I knew I would feel like this. It's just disgusting. He's disgusting.
And he is apparently the upper class liberal whisperer. Like he apparently is the voice that understands exactly what's going on. And that to me is just ridiculous.
I feel like we're not getting anywhere. They're all still stuck on the same friggin' things.
They are.
That doesn't make sense. You're at 77 reporting in Pennsylvania.
91% reporting in Georgia. Trump is up by just under 3 points. Pennsylvania, Trump is up by 3.5 points with 77% reporting.
There's all of them right there.
Again, the only thing I need to know, guys, about Pennsylvania to determine whether Trump is going to hang on and win the state is how many votes are outstanding in Philadelphia.
What's weird is that on this list, it has Florida as a key race. In what universe was Florida a key race?
Listen, I can remember when Rachel Maddow back in 2016 said that South Carolina was a key race. Okay.
In Meadowland.
Yeah. Well, and therein lies the other issue here is that Trump has won these states.
New Mexico is blue.
Yeah, they've won these states by, and that's not surprising.
No.
But it was closer than I think people may have anticipated. And the gaps here, remember, Trump won Texas.
And New Mexico is barely a border state.
That's true.
It's barely a border
That's
state.
true.
Like it is, but
Trump won New Mexico in 2020 by 6 points. He won it by 14 points this time. Or is winning
you
it by
just said
14
you said New
points.
Mexico. You mean Texas?
Texas.
I'm like,
I apologize.
yeah, Texas.
Wisconsin, 68% reporting Trump at 3.5 points up. Michigan, Trump almost 5 points up, 37%.
It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. It's not going to get smaller and smaller.
Nevada is still not calling its. I don't understand.
Okay, Nevada is a disaster shit show. Do you remember that time?
But that's caucus voting. That's different. This is supposed to be polls. Like, come on. What's going on here?
Nevada's a shit show.
It is. No denying.
And their Democratic Party is also a shit show, and they haven't changed. And I don't know, like they supposedly had changed.
Jill Stein is not getting to 5%.
It's unfortunate. I was hoping so too. She got 3 votes from my family.
But
My little voted for his first presidential election, and my little voted for Trump.
You know what I think happened this time, guys? You know what I think happened? I think a lot of people that thought they were going to vote for Jill Stein, they didn't. They voted for Trump. They just say, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. I'm just doing it.
Well, I mean,
there is that. There's no question based on the vote gap between the two that there is a fuck it Trump vote out there. 1,000%.
Well, yeah, because you and I would be in that fuck it Trump vote if we thought that it made a difference.
If I was in a swing state, I told you, and I'll say it now. Yeah, I would have voted for Trump.
I might have too.
100%.
I might have too. And again, it isn't that I like Trump. I don't. I just cannot stand the sanctimonious Democrats, and I want them to lose badly. They need to. They need to lose badly. Not to mention the fact that they didn't even have a candidate that was elected by anybody to be in that position. Trump won primaries. His people voted for him.
And they wanted him. You know, there was this argument back in 20.
People underlooked that.
Remember when they were talking about Bill Weld primarying Trump back in 2020? Trump had a 94% approval rating as president by Republican voters. Do you know what Biden's approval rating was when Marianne Williamson and then RFK decided to primary him? His approval rating was in the 60s. This is a sitting president.
That's what I mean. It's like, I don't like Trump. He's not my pick, but he's at least been chosen by somebody.
In the 60s in the Democratic Party. I will tell you, and now that we are getting close to the wire, I will tell you who the happiest people are in all of politics, that this is the result that is showing on this map.
Me, if those people leave Florida. If the people move, move that have threatened to move if Trump wins, if they leave Florida and it reduces traffic, I am the happiest person.
It is official on the Associated Press across the wire. Bernie Moreno has flipped the Senate seat against Sherrod Brown in Ohio. The GOP has now flipped 2 Senate seats. They have officially, and they will
see now. At least that lines up. So they gained 2. Dems lost 2. I don't understand how they could gain 2, but Dems lost 3 on the House side.
Unfortunately, Deb Fischer has taken the lead over Dan Osborne. It is very close, but you know what? Even if Osborne doesn't win, at least the path has been shown in these one-party.
It's a hell of a good showing.
100%. In these one-party dominated states, you have to run as an independent.
It's the best thing to do. And the Democrats are wasting their entire time and money, and anybody who runs with them is just a total loser in those places. But it also shows you just
how corrupt it really is, because it's all about filling the coffers of the corporate consultant establishment. That's all it is. I'm telling you, one of the things that I absolutely want to know when it's all said and done, I want to know how much money the Democratic establishment put behind Yes on 4 in the state of Florida. Because if it's less than what they put into Kamala's
Well, right.
game,
We need to see the comparison of those numbers.
Heads better,
and I'd like to know, and
I'm
sure Nikki will have a perfectly good explanation, and all of the little underlings will explain however they explain that. But they have no strategy. They have no plan. I'd like to know how much money they put behind Debbie Mercoso Powell to lose. And I voted for her. I have no problem saying that. I vote for anybody over Rick Scott.
Ted Cruz has a 1 million vote lead over Colin Allred at 76% reporting. I don't know what they're waiting for to call the race in Texas, which talk about the fucking irony of it being Ted Cruz if it officially hits 50 votes and a Senate majority for the GOP.
Ted Cruz. You can't get rid of Ted. Like, people don't understand how pathetic that is. I don't think people understand how pathetic that is. That's so pathetic.
You know what, though? I'm not willing to go along with that. Colin Allred may very well be a good candidate. It's the Democratic Party brand.
No, how pathetic it is that they can't beat Ted Cruz.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, no, it's not about him in particular. I don't know that candidate.
No,
Colin
what
Allred.
I'm saying is that in the state of Texas, for example, it's a referendum on the blue party that people are so sick of it. That the bullshit, the campaign that
they're going to hold off calling those states as long as humanly possible. And I do believe it's because they don't
and there it is. And you know what? Just as we were speaking, just as we said it, the Texas Senate race has been called for Ted Cruz, and the GOP officially has the Senate majority. Congratulations,
don't
Democrats.
Yell. Don't
They
yell.
really
I'm the one
did
who gets the headache.
They're the ones who did a great job.
Excellent job.
Really great. Really incredible. I'm almost here.
He's almost back.
We might as well, and listen, at this point right now, we could get in a car, drive up to West Palm Beach, and they'll probably call the presidency, and we'll be there for the shenanigans.
I'm not going to They wouldn't let me into Mar-a-Lago.
No, it's not Mar-a-Lago. It's West Palm. Oh, wait, actually, no, because Mar-a-Lago's on Palm Beach, but it's at West Palm. So I wonder if they're just doing
I'm not welcome there. I'm pretty sure of it. Trump would not. I would not be welcome in that environment.
No, you're totally welcome. Come on down.
They think I'm a communist.
Really great. No, you're not going to be a commie. You're totally welcome here. Appreciate you. Yeah, no, the GOP has officially claimed the Senate, which is, again, not surprising. How many other Senate seats are trending right now? Dave McCormick holds a 2-point lead over Bob Casey in Pennsylvania. That could absolutely flip. The one that a lot of people thought was going to flip and likely will potentially flip. Again, there's no guarantee. But John Tester is trailing. It gets very early, but he's trailing Tim Sheehy, and this was another seat that they thought the GOP thought that they could pick up in this election. Ruben Gallego is still holding, and again, I want to tell you that Ruben Gallego is trending towards a Senate victory over Kari Lake, but they stopped counting the vote in Arizona
at 49% reporting.
What the
because they're holding back on all the swing states. There's a reason. They're literally having us sit here waiting for swing states. There is no way that they don't know the numbers in the eastern states. How is it they don't know the numbers in those states? Why won't they call North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Georgia?
Is there going to be any...
And what the hell with like Louisiana and whatever?
Is there going to be any type of mea culpa? Like, is there going to be anything?
No. But no, there won't be any self-awareness. There won't be any come to Jesus moment. The Democratic Party is gone. But does it force more people out of it and cause it to implode sooner and be more and more meaningless? Yes. See, eventually when you have no people, you will cease to exist. So it doesn't need to come from the top. The more people that leave that party and the more they will become irrelevant. That's what's going to happen. And that's what I'm hoping happens. So yeah, they will be made irrelevant, but no, they're not going to have some great awakening in that party where they're like, man, people really don't like us. They don't give a shit because they don't care if Trump wins. The people at the top of that party don't care if Trump wins. Half the people at that party probably voted for Trump. They don't care. They're just paying their consultants and they're just keeping everything the way it is.
Well, I wonder if more and more people will see that. I mean,
I keep telling them.
If Trump, and here's the historic significance for those of you who don't know, Donald Trump will also become the second non-consecutive serving president in our nation's history. I was hoping it was going to be 3 because I would have loved Teddy Roosevelt to have been the one, and he would have been if he had the GOP nomination in 1912.
He's the reason we ended up with Woodrow Wilson. I've got issues. I've got issues.
But he had every right to run.
I'm not saying he didn't. But I'm just saying
the GOP stole the nomination
again,
from him.
Yet he's why we had Woodrow Wilson.
Or you could argue that Taft is the reason we have Wilson because Roosevelt ended up doing significantly better than Taft did in the election.
It doesn't matter. We ended up with Woodrow Wilson.
What? I still maintain that with maybe the exception of Andrew Johnson, and even that's debatable, Woodrow Wilson is the worst president we've ever had.
He's up there. He's up
think
there.
About all the things that he's
in our lifetime, it's W.
Well, yeah. Come on.
Horrible. Which then arguably I would say was Cheney. And yet you've got Kamala parading around the country with the Cheneys. Like somehow we're proud of that. Are you? I look at that and I think to myself, first of all, I look around and say, like, am I on candid camera? Because I think these people have gone and lost their damn minds. That's what I think about when I see them bragging about an endorsement from Dick Cheney. I'm like, these people have lost their fucking minds. And anybody who thinks that's a selling point, you've lost your mind too. Anybody who's a vote blue person who is somehow impressed that they're working with the Cheneys, like somehow that's a collaboration. Oh, yes, it's bipartisan. You've lost your fucking minds. That's all I know.
Virginia has been called for Kamala Harris. It is a close race, but
that was not really in play.
No.
So I'm not, that doesn't.
I think
they're holding back on all the swing states on purpose.
Trump has
this is ridiculous.
Trump has a 4-point lead in Pennsylvania with 81% reporting, and they don't want to. It's like I said.
What's Michigan?
Michigan, Trump has a 5-point
but they only
lead,
have 40%
39% reporting. Wisconsin is at 69. Trump holds a 3.3% lead.
It's over, people.
It's not over yet.
Okay. It's not over till
the fat lady sings.
Till the fat orange man sings.
Well, listen, I'll be singing all night, baby. YMCA, my favorite song.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I mean, he's going to win the popular vote. He's going to,
he's almost 40% of the vote is counted in California, and Trump is maintaining a 4 million vote lead over Kamala Harris. He's going to win the popular vote. That is going to.
They won't have a self-awareness situation.
No, but that's also the thing that people don't seem to understand. Even though Kamala had more grassroots donations, Kamala Harris had a lot more billionaire support than Donald Trump did. Now, Trump had Musk. And
I
Musk
find it
gave him a
disgusting
lot.
that the Harris campaign even sought small dollar donations. How dare people like her and Barack Obama sit there and put out ads telling us that we should contribute $5. Go fuck yourselves. And that's the truth. It's like that is so off the wall to me that you are dipping into the corporate trough and yet you have the fucking nerve to present yourself as a grassroots candidate in a way that small dollar people should be supporting you. And by the way, anybody that does support corporate candidates with small dollar donations, you're a fucking moron. Sorry, you're a fucking moron. You're like, I am floored that people like Obama have that level of complete unawareness that somehow they think that it's okay to solicit money from people that are slinging hash and barely getting by when you're also taking money from corporate donors. That's disgusting. So that's schnurra right there. That's schnurr. And then on top of that, I'm sorry to say, but anybody who gives to them, you're an idiot. I don't understand how you would give donations to somebody who's taking corporate donations.
Well, I can only imagine that there is going to be some type of mea culpa that's going to come from this, that people are going to start questioning. Well, the one thing I have been saying, and I think you would agree, is that if Trump does win, and right now the trends are suggesting that it's obviously pointing in his direction. That's what AP has been saying. That's what the New York Times has been saying.
That's what I've been saying.
Are the Democrats going to see anywhere near the potency in fundraising capability that they experienced in 2017 and 2018?
Oh, hell no. They're going down and down and down.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be able to fundraise anywhere near as effectively as they once did.
I think it's ending.
There are people who are really going to be like, you threw the entire world at him and he won again. Maybe it is you. Maybe you're the problem.
Well, again, and people that give money to them, I don't understand that at all. I don't understand why anybody would give a small dollar donation to a corporate candidate. I don't understand that. They're double dipping. Pick one. You want to do small dollar donations and you don't be a corporate whore. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So anybody who facilitates that, you're not thinking. It's pathetic.
It is.
And they're just sitting here not reporting it. Why won't they call Georgia? Georgia has 91%.
And here's why I'm very skeptical at this point, because if there was a real large share of outstanding votes to count in Fulton and Cobb County, they would be counting them right now. They would be counting them. They're not holding back if they know that this is going to help Kamala. That's what I'm skeptical of. This is something that everyone should be aware of.
No, they're holding back to try to prevent Trump from winning. They're holding back to see where they might be able to finagle and screw around and cheat a few points here and there, a little nip, a little tuck. That's why they're holding out. I don't trust the process at all. At all.
I don't trust it either.
And so that that to me speaks volumes. So it doesn't really matter. And the fact that Jamie Raskin would dare say something like that. Let me tell you, what district is he? Where is he?
He's in Maryland. He's safe.
Oh, no, not that. You people, whoever you are, that's your person, you need a new person. You have a sitting congressperson that's threatening to not uphold his duty to the Constitution based on his personal opinion about a candidate. How disgusting must you be? Also, isn't he a Zion-Nazi?
Raskin, I'm not. He's Jewish, but I don't.
No, that doesn't mean he's a Zion. I thought he was. I think he is. He was the one who basically said we shouldn't be doing this, but here, let me send you some more money. So yeah, that's disgusting. Anybody who lives in Raskin's district know that your representative is outwardly being willing to be in violation of our Constitution and is probably one of the first people that is jumped on saying how Trump wants to screw over the Constitution. And yet he's literally telling you he's not going to follow his duty according to the Constitution.
And now I do.
Fuck that guy.
Now, I unfortunately do have some bad news to report for you guys. As much as it pains me to say this, Adam Schiff for Brains wins very easily.
We knew, well.
But remember, and this is one of the things that I hope in terms of the call out should be stated as such. You know, these consultants want to make all this money, and yet no one really has taken Adam Schiff to task for the fact that he spent millions of dollars to help Steve Garvey get the nomination over Katie Porter.
That's the whole point of having a jungle primary. That's the whole reason you have a jungle primary, is so that the leading party can buy both top tickets.
And think about how interesting the race would have actually been in California if Katie Porter was facing off against Adam Schiff right now. That would have been a one Senate race even worth taking a look at. Now,
he couldn't afford that.
Not at all. I don't know if we can actually zoom in on this. Guys, friend of the show, David Kim, is running against Jimmy Gomez, I believe in Congressional District 34 in California. If anybody wants to check that race, we would love to see David Kim obviously pull that out. And I think he has a chance. You know, he got pretty close last time. Here's the ultimate slap in the face and why no one will ever take the Green Party seriously. In the state of California, Robert F. Kennedy has more votes than Jill Stein has, and he dropped out. That's wow.
And endorsed Trump.
That's incredible. Oh my God. But again, I understand what people are saying. And you know what the beautiful thing is now?
They don't even show his race. They don't even show that New York race.
Hey, how the hell are you going to complain? How are you going to complain about Jill Stein? At least we know that Jill Stein ain't catching any shit for this. Like, they spent
That's why I wanted to be handed.
They spent so much money going after Jill Stein.
Another sign of how they have no strategy.
You almost have to wonder that if when they started doing that and they were thinking about voting for Stein, that, all right, you know, that's what it is.
That's what happens. I cannot stand this man. I cannot stand him. Ugh.
I think, Calabri, I think we're all upset that she's not doing better, but I'm telling you, my gut is telling me that there is a chunk of that electorate out there that was going to vote for Stein and just said, fuck it, I'm voting for Trump. And I think
maybe. Well, look, we've always, there's definitely this sort of undercounted Trump vote, and there's no undercounted Kamala vote.
That was such a great
Where
show.
the dead guy Night Court was good. They tried to bring it back with the girl from Big Bang Theory, and it just
and listen, look, Larroquette is a fantastic comedic actor.
He is so good.
But
oh my God, Stripes was on a couple of weeks ago. John Larroquette was so frigging funny in that movie.
John Larroquette, listen, I know you didn't like it, but John Larroquette was great in Blind Date with Bruce Willis and Kim Basinger.
Yeah, he was, but that movie was so bad. I actually saw that in the theater.
But he was the reason that movie was really good.
Yeah, he was great.
That was the movie that Bruce did that was his last role before he landed Die Hard. And so Bruce was getting these opportunities because of Moonlighting. And
that was a great show.
Now, even though that's a show I remember as a young kid in the 80s.
I loved Moonlighting. I loved Moonlighting.
And I remember Sybil was in that. What was that movie with Robert Downey Jr.?
Chances are. Love that too.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies. I love that. My Husband and My Wedding Song that is the theme song from that movie.
Yeah.
I do love that movie. That's one of my favorite. And Ryan O'Neal.
But if you guys have not seen Blind Date,
it's
John
not that good, though.
John Larroquette is so funny.
He likes stuff that I think is stupid a lot.
I like that type of comedy.
I don't.
I do.
He likes stupid shit. Like Jason, my husband, likes stupid
call it
shit.
Slapstick or toilet humor.
No, because I can get toilet humor is not slapstick. Toilet humor is stupid and annoying. Slapstick can be brilliant. John Ritter was slapstick. He was brilliant. I can appreciate that. No, I don't think that's it. I'm getting kind of bored of this.
Colin, let's say hello. Let's say hello to our friends at Punch Up Pod real quick, since we haven't done it all night. We'll chat with them for a few minutes.
Are they there? Like, why?
All right, so Colin, come on in. If you're there, I'm going to add you in. Colin.
Oh, hey.
All right, so let's.
Can we add that? Like, how do we do it?
Tell us how to do it, my friend. Tell us how to do it.
I sent them a link to this one, and I sent you a link to theirs. So you just need to open a new tab or window and enter it, and just do your same info.
Can do that on ours. Okay.
Do we have to do that through email?
No, I texted you the link, so you just gotta.
Well, I can't do it through text.
That's the thing. It's gotta be. We can't do it.
Okay, here, give me 1 second. I'll email it.
Guys,
because they're West Coast time. We're gonna check in with our West Coast friends. Yes, Stripes was awesome.
Yes, that was a very good.
Stripes was so friggin' funny.
The Aunt Jemima treatment.
Love the Aunt Jemima treatment. That movie was just. He was so friggin' funny.
He was great. And
I also was a huge fan of Harold Ramis.
And the amazing thing about it is that Stripes came out just before John Belushi died, but there's no question that Murray would have had a very promising comedic career. But the reason he ultimately the reason he got the role in Ghostbusters as Venkman, because initially the original cast of Ghostbusters was going to be John Belushi and Eddie Murphy with Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. Now, it would have been interesting to see how that would have worked out, but I think it worked out pretty well with Ernie Hudson and Bill Murray.
Bill Murray was so funny.
Bill frickin' Murray.
Bill Murray was so funny. Oh my God, Stripes was so good. Death to Disco. That was Judge Reinhold wearing that shirt. Death to Disco. When they got from the mud fighting, they were fighting in the strippers in the mud pit.
All right, so Colin, do we need to X out of here?
That we can't do it.
No, you should be able to have to stay in here.
Okay. All right, let's try it out. Let's see if it works.
I don't know how it works.
Let's try.
I don't know.
And then just.
Then we're going to be in two places.
Yes, you'll need to mute one of the windows once they join over here, so that there's not an echo.
All right.
Ideally, that should work. Is my?
I don't. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
We'll go on our thing and see what happens.
Finally.
Hi.
But I don't know that they're on ours. So that's
And now
the
they
thing,
just
like,
need
they're on
to
with them, but they're not on with us. So like their people see us, but our people don't see you.
correct. They need to do the exact same thing reverse. I texted and emailed them
Okay,
a
so
link as
you
well.
need to do what we did. We texted you, and you got an email. You have a link, and if you do what we just did, you'll end up in ours too. That Colin sent you. You don't need to leave here. Just go into your email and click on the link.
Make sure, just as a new window, and then just mute that new
a new
window.
Do a new email. Which email did you send it to, Colin?
The one Peter sent me.
Whatever Peter sent.
Yeah, the one that you.
So just open up a new window and click on it and just see what happens. This is new to us, so we'll see. No, it's all good. I can't believe that I'm part of somebody that figured it out. Well, you figured it out. No, you need a new window and just click on it.
All righty. Yeah. Well,
Colin's the best.
Colin is the best. We already know that.
We already did it. We're in you. We're in you. We're in your stream. Oh, I see. I see. Yeah. Well, no, really? I would think only one of you would have to do it. You go back to us and see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so it adds. So Lila's here.
Pat just needs to click on the link as well.
Click on the link.
You got to email it to him.
All right. So
she's muted on your guys' side. You need to hit the unmute button.
Then I'm gonna have an echo on ours.
So just on the top of your window, you can right click and there's a mute button. So just mute one of these and that'll fix the echo.
So it'll come through on both sides. Okay.
Pat, I'm sending it to your text. Is that okay?
Colin says we need to mute something.
I'm doing okay. So give me.
No, not us. Yeah, I see you. Go on back onto theirs and see what happens on theirs. Yeah, we're on yours and ours.
Can you guys hear it?
Go back over here.
The physical mute button is clicked for her here in StreamYard.
How do we undo that?
She has to do it.
Okay, but when I undo it, I feel like we're gonna get
Now there's an echo.
Yeah. So how do I do that?
I don't hear it now.
You just need to, at the top of your window, your browser, you should be able to right click one of these windows and there's a mute site button or mute tab, something like that.
I feel like
just
we're
do
the
it to
Brady
one
Bunch.
of those.
But will that mean that our viewers don't hear us?
No, if you do the right click on the top browser tab, that's just for you personally.
So
So do we need to do that?
So Colin, should we just X out of the other channels so that way they can see us and we can see them basically?
What do you mean? You can't X out of it?
No. This one up here.
Oh.
Their channel. That's what I'm saying. You don't need to be
Look at us being all fancy trying to do a thing.
We can get out of that. No, then we won't be on them. You can't.
I'm not sure if right clicking shows up on screen share. I'll try and show this.
Yeah, I'm just keep it on screen while we figure this out so people can watch. Oh, I just turned the audio down so people can work out.
So on their window, you go to the top here and right click, and there should be a mute site button, and just do that to one of them.
How do we do it? Do we need to do that?
Do we need to do that, Colin?
To one of them, yeah. So
Which
otherwise, you guys
one?
will hear an echo. Whichever. I don't. Probably theirs. You want to keep yours unmuted and mute the one that you joined. That goes for
All right.
both of you.
Right click on the window.
It'll be different based on browser, but when you right click, it'll like the wording will be different, but it'll should be somewhere in here. Mute site, mute tab, mute window.
Let's go to their.
Yeah, right on the tab part itself, on top of Chrome, right where it says StreamYard Studio.
Yeah, you can click right
Right
on
click
like the
that.
text.
For me, it says mute site.
We can.
Guys,
we're going to make it easier.
We're going to make it easier. Guys, if you want to continue watching this podcast and you want to continue watching us, join us over at the Punch Up Pod. We're going to join.
We've been on for a while and it's late here.
Yes.
So we're going to switch over and just go over to them.
We're going to come over to you guys.
No, it's fine. I'm just glad we've gotten this close. Like, this is as close as we've gotten in being able to do this. So, like, I feel like I'm making progress.
We'll prepare for it better next time. We'll prepare for it better next time.
No, don't feel sorry. I mean, well, yeah, you should be sorry about that, but don't be sorry about not figuring.
Guys, we really appreciate you all being here.
Yeah, guys, check out Punch Up Pod.
We will be live on Thursday night. If you want to continue to watch us, speak with the Punch Up Pod. We're going over there right now.
All right. Guys, we'll see you on Thursday. We're going to be over on Punch Up. Bye.